Yo. Did I just surprise anybody? Did anybody forget they were in the room with me? That always gets me. I always find that funny. What's up, everybody? Welcome. I always find that funny whenever somebody's like, oh yeah, I was sitting in the starting screen and then suddenly your voice came out of nowhere. Like, I get that energy. Sometimes I wake up sleep talking. What the heck is that? How's everybody doing though? Welcome to Mondays. Monday. Happy to be here with all of you. If anybody is here. Hello? There we go, Sam. I see you. You're in here. How's it going, Sam? Good to see you. Thanks for joining me today. Oh, I didn't change my stream title. Whoopsie. Hold up a second. Give me 1 second. Okay, now we've got the proper title on there. Unfortunately, my going live message is completely wrong, but nobody looks at that, right? Nobody clicks on that notification. All right, I see more people coming in. How's it going? Silly time, good to see you. Cookie Lloyd. I like Lloyd, but Lloyd is cool too. Good old Cookie Lloyd. I'm not here, you don't see me? Oh, I don't see you. I'm sorry. That was all a mistake. Zortoza, good to see you. 07's buddy, as always. P-Bond, you too. Always see P-Bond in here. Chat is basically John Cena. You can't see us. I need some trumpets though. If you guys are gonna be John Cena, then I need the trumpets to play when you enter. Cantor, good to see you. Jack Tyler, looking quite corrupt today. I like it. Zelcon, good to see you. Chase, Kai Gaming, hey ya. What's up, Yames? Or Yames? Still don't know. Just curious, is it some days on YouTube and some days on Twitch? Nope. It's all days on both. Just whatever you decide you like best. Although Fridays I usually do just Twitch. Because it's much easier to just like set a stream and play whatever we want and switch between games. So I prefer to do that because Twitch allows me to do that. YouTube kind of makes you make a thumbnail and it's like, what am I supposed to do? Put 5 different games on the thumbnail? Come on now. The second one, Yames. Yes, that's it. I keep, like, you told me that before and I keep on being like, which one is it? Yames is just so natural, you know? What's up, vibes? Today's gonna be a good day, folks. It's another one of those chatting streams. We're gonna look at some history of Star Citizen development, specifically their old pillar talks. These were fun videos because they kind of hyped them up to be sort of the video to go see whenever you wanted to know what was going on throughout a quarter. They'd bring in big names like Todd Pappy, Chris Roberts, Tony Zurvik, just the whole crew. So it was a lot of fun to see, and it always felt like an event when they would release them, but they just squandered them, like they died. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop back in, check out what kind of stuff they were saying back when these were popular, and see how they've kept up to it. See if maybe they need to do a little extra work and see if things have really changed since then. What's up, Johnny? It's going well. Good to see silly you, Twitch being slow on the notifications. Twitch is always so ham-fisted with their notifications. They're kind of just like, hey, did you watch the streamer one time? Okay, hold up. Let me send this over. Oh, it looks like I'm out of cell reception. I hope you get that notification, buddy. Like, Twitch just doesn't care. But that's why we made a role on Discord. What's up, Tentacle Love? What a name. You're an SC noob, teach you the history. Of course. I need like a button to press so that the school bell rings. Like, class in session. Today we learn about Star Citizen. We will go back into the depths of time to find a scam. Hey streamer, how you doing? Good to see you. Do they ever even do pillar talks anymore? No, I wish. I wish we could really use these. Honestly, I was considering starting Pillar. Actually, for anybody who came to the stream on Saturday, where I had like a bunch of creators in and we talked about the game, the original concept for that was literally Pillar Talks. And then I realized like I just shouldn't name it that because we don't actually have the authority to give talks on pillars. So instead we'll look at the pillars from a distance and talk about other stuff. So anybody who didn't see that, it'll be on YouTube tomorrow, but that's kind of a new monthly thing that I'm doing. We're getting a lot of new SC noobs and I love it. Yeah, yes. The community is alive these last few months. Now, the hype has actually been dropping slightly ever since kind of the peak, which I think was around May-ish, as usual. That's not unusual. It's very normal, actually. The Invictus Week event is usually one of, if not the high points of the year. I think it was the high point in 2020 because the pandemic was so fresh. I believe that was the high point of that year. So it's pretty normal for the hype to die down a bit after that event. But regardless, like we're getting constant new players. The progress and growth of the community is unlike I've ever seen over the last several years. And, you know, despite some of the problems that are happening and the normal quarterly drama we're having, people are really, really pumped for this game right now. It's also a really critical time. So I think everybody's waiting with bated breath to see what happens over the next couple patches. After testing 3.17.2 so much on the PTU, you have no interest to actually play now that it's live. It's been much better for me live than it was as the PTU. John! Hey, y'all can see me here. That's me. John! Yo! What's up? My man, Citizen John. Thank you for the resub, dude. I just want everybody to know that if you ever want to know how to mine, go to John. Ask him all of the questions over and over until he gets annoyed. No, I'm kidding. But John is a great miner. I don't know if you've actually been doing much mining lately. What have you been doing in game, John? We haven't played in a while. You should join us for the Siege of Orison stuff we're doing this week, if you have the time. Ruby! It's been more steady hype-wise instead of a quarterly spike. Yeah, it has been steady. It's like steadily growing. There's definitely a buzz. There's a buzz around Star Citizen right now, and it's not like previous years because a lot of that is outside of the community. Like a lot of it is people who are just seeing it once or twice every couple of months, but when you go into like comments for YouTube or on Reddit threads or on Twitter, a lot of those people aren't just raging. Now sometimes they're actually talking about the game, which as bare minimum as that is a huge improvement from a few years ago. Like it was almost impossible to go into a Reddit post on the gaming subreddit and talk about this game 3 years ago without just hyperbole through the roof. And it's still kind of like that, but now you can pick out and kind of have some calm conversations. Was doing that last night and had some fun doing some mining, or the Siege of Orison. You won't be able to play the new patch just yet, but heard about the $1 million. Yeah. Oh gosh. The old CIG being CIG, you know, their heart's in the right place. At least we think so. But they just managed to, you know, it be like me sometimes. I do that. I don't know about all you, but like there have been several times in my life, prominent times, when I can look back and be like, you know, I was trying to do the right thing there. I tried real hard and I really f***ed it up. Like we all have those moments. CIG more than most. This game is pulling me in, but I want to wait until Pyro. I get that. That's probably a good idea. Next year is going to be much more stable than this year. It was much more stable than last year. The longer you wait, the better it gets. Orison had a lot of laughs. That's good. It's been running fairly well for me in terms of like crashes and stuff. I unfortunately have like 10 to 15 frames per second the whole time, but made it work. Y'all had a mining group event over the weekend? Yeah, with Wahats. Not much luck in the belt though. I'd hit up Lyria then. Yeah, we've also in the pipeline for GII stuff. Punji in chat has actually been lovely enough to write up a couple more event ideas. We have a channel in there where any GII member can come in, suggest an event, take part in planning that event, and then eventually help to run that event if they'd like to. And Punji has put 3 of them out there for me. One of them I really latched onto is some rock mining. I can't wait to do a rock mining event because they feel so like they're using everyone, right? You got to have the people who transport the vehicles. You got to have the people who are scanning, the people who are, I guess, flying is transporting the vehicles, the people who do the actual mining, and then like maybe a camera person or 2. You end up getting a good amount of interplay there. I like it. I like it. You don't mind them taking the cash back as it was way too much that you had nothing to grind for. The 1 million is a good middle ground, I think. So they're giving everybody 1 mil. You're kind of jealous of the people coming in after Pyro. That's going to be quite the experience. The best part is, like, I feel you. I feel you on that energy. I get super jealous of the people who continue to come in later and later because they get such a grand, okay, I won't say such a grand experience. They get a much better, I won't even say much better. They get an improved experience compared to what you get. And like, you look at what you were dealing with. Like, we couldn't send money to each other back in the day. We couldn't buy ships. We couldn't rent ships. We couldn't even get vehicles into other vehicles without exploding. And you look at the game now, and it's like, what a time to jump in. How did I come up with the name Space Tomato? I used to go by Tomato something else Tomato on social media, and I was posting some Star Citizen content there, and figured, why don't I just make an account for Star Citizen content? Because I was just doing like screenshots back then. And I was like, why don't I just throw the name Space before the tomato? That seems kind of Star Citizen-y. And it worked. It was fun to go on a ship buying binge. Yeah, a lot of people just went and threw that money down. Like, as many ships as possible. As a newer player, you see Star Citizen as being a lot closer to being a complete game, kind of like Minecraft back in alpha. It was still good, but it could always get better with more updates. Yeah, and they've got a lot of updates to go. The weird part about Star Citizen is going to be how it feels good as an alpha that's wildly incomplete, and there's still going to be so much more work to do after it gets to that point, you know? Hey, Chase switched over to Twitch. All right, guys, so let's start checking out these pillar talks, these old goodies. I honestly think the first one I would like to look at. I want to start with the 2021, but that one's going to be wildly inaccurate just because of the pandemic, and also we have some older ones here that I think we should touch on. What do you guys say? We've got one for 3.9, 3.8, 3.6, staggered development, 2020, and this, I believe, is just introducing the talks. What do you guys want to see? Who's coming on to discuss the game, and good morning? It's just me today. Just boring old Tomat. Wailing at the microphone. I hope it's entertaining enough. Do the first and the last pillar talk. 3.9, 3.8. Like the recent upload. Thank you, Baird. I hope that one helps a lot of people out. It was fun to figure out like second ships for people. Okay, we've got how about we do a 3.8? That's the earliest one I think somebody asked for. So we'll start from the beginning and go from there. Started from the bottom, or like kind of like close to the bottom. Like 3.0 is like the bottom right here, and 3.8 is like here. I don't know. It's like the game's gonna launch like up here. Ooh! Thanks for following. But we'll start with this one and see what they have to say. I'm sure they'll have some good stuff on here. Let's go ahead and flip it back. Actually, let's just head over to the main old thingy. All right. This is going to probably be a little bit painful for those of you who have been around. Generally, looking back at what they say about Star Citizen brings up feelings of distress. No, I'm kidding. Sometimes it's good changes, sometimes it's bad. But you know, a lot of things change as they're building this game. So you're going to hear a lot of stuff that we are better off from and worse off from. Hey, somebody redeemed my favorite dropship lady. She's such a joy. Such a gracious joy. All right, here we go. 3.8.
No. I am going to bring this home in one take.
Let's do it. Got it.
And I'm going to be annoying. Sorry. I'm going to be stopping this a lot and having my own commentary, but that's why we're all here, right?
No pressure.
None.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pillar Talk. We're going to have some fun conversation here, and we're taking a little bit of time out of our busy schedule to talk about what's coming in 3.8, which will be right after CitizenCon.
Yeah. Excellent.
Big thing that we're shipping with 3.8 is Planet Tech.
What does everybody remember from 3.8 before he does say this? I guess it's already on the screen. But like, I don't really remember 3.8 that well. I remember 3.6 and 3.10. I don't remember 3.8 being big for anything. Wasn't familiar with what Pillar Talk was. Haven't watched one of these yet. Oh, really, Ruby? Dang, and you've been around the block. Well, this should be fun.
V4,
did they ever say why there is no Pillar Talk anymore? They got busy.
Forward for
I don't know
how we realize our universe and star systems. And the place that most people will have seen it in CitizenCon would have been Microtech, which is also getting shipped with 3.8. Now we're only shipping Microtech itself, not its moons. New Babbage and the spaceport exteriors will be there. But
the 890 jump fuel stuff. Oh, I remember that. I think they could probably get server meshing to show at CitizenCon in some closed fashion. I don't think it'll be like a standard of 60 frames per second or anything.
And just seeing how seamlessly
the
transitions to detail. There's no popping, there's no LODs that you can appreciate. You know, you're in a snowstorm and you can barely see, and on your, helmet visor.
Oh, you joined at
it's slush
3:15,
on
Ruby? I feel like you've been here forever, dude. Well, I appreciate you always hanging out.
What we've been developing, and we've talked about it a little bit, is what we call the actor status system. Basically, there's a Visio chart of every single thing that affects every single other thing. And what we wanted to do was not just wait till this is all in, but do some stuff that's extremely relevant to what we're doing right now. And the most relevant that you have on an ice planet is obviously the cold. So we want the characters to be reacting to the cold. And as you guys have seen in CitizenCon already, hypothermia isn't just a, your suit's not warm enough, so take some damage.
3.8 was Microtech without the interior. That's right.
Here you have some temperature. I give you a number. Oh, you can't handle that number because you don't have the right suit on, and you die. It's not that simple for us. I think it's got much more of the fidelity that you've come to expect from Star Citizen, where it's not just some simple gameplay
And
number.
before, we had room system, which is just breathing. So either you have oxygen, you don't have oxygen. And also our suits before were just purely damage mitigation.
Yep.
On bullets or projectiles coming at you. Now with this, I think internally we classify it as basically combat or utilitarian for the armors. And
That's right.
What happened? Did the stream go? What happened to the stream? Am I not live? It says I'm live. But I'm not. Wait, somebody can somebody confirm? Stream is fine. Okay. I am live. All right. Somebody freaked me out because I'm seeing it on my own monitor that it's like it says I'm offline for some reason. All right, cool. Sorry.
And
Sorry.
so then it gives us purpose for the utilitarian armors.
Sure, and you've got to make a decision as a player. If you got a Hornet, you can only store so many armors. You can only store so much stuff.
So you're talking about the visuals. You're talking about
David, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in with us. If you're looking for an org, you might be able to join us. Check it out. It's in the video description down below. gii.spacetomato.gaming.com.
The economy, for example, the shops, what they're selling in terms of clothing and armor would be dramatically different on an ice planet like Microtech versus a planet that's burning hot, or a planet that's incredibly toxic, etc.
I guess things would be worth more or less too. Like, I mean, if you're selling a bathing suit on Microtech.
But it's also like imagine a place. It's like you would expect to see lots of fairly.
Yo, are you guys cool if I bring in a a little kiddie pool back here so we could just make this a pool stream because it's freaking hot. I'm just about to go ahead and hop in some water back here. No, I wouldn't do that, but it is hot. It's so hot. Stop it.
Deep, wool jackets and stuff on a cold planet, whereas you'd see T-shirts elsewhere. Whereas you'd see more utilitarian gear over on Hurston. Stuff that's intended to deal with the noxious fumes and pollution over there.
And not only that, the tool set for it we have is far, far more powerful and actually artist friendly and quick to use. So
yeah, no, I mean, it's an exciting thing for the artists. Like to give you an example is that that making this transition, any technological transition that we make within the game, we usually have to backtrack over a bunch of old content that we've had in place. And it's not so
They
old,
do.
but we have planets, we have moons. So when you're changing underlying technology like that, you got to be able to make those updates. But of course, we can't spend the 6 months that we would have taken to make Daymar in the past. And we were able to within about 2 months or so, and speaking on Marco's behalf, maybe a little bit here, within about two months, and everybody there.
Michelle Cooper, all those guys.
We were able to apply those updates across all the planets.
Well, it's not just
within an amount
update.
of time.
They started from. It's basically started from scratch.
Chris is like, no, shut the hell up. I know. Let me tell him. No, I'm kidding. But what he's talking about is actually pretty big deal. I remember when this happened. Yeah. What's up, Billy? How you doing? We got all better off after that stream. Actually had a pretty big stream the next day too, which was a lot of fun. I'll be posting that on YouTube soon. You're gonna send me a fan? Thank you. I have a fan. It's just downstairs and I'm too lazy. You know how it is. So what they're talking about here was when the planetary tech finally kind of matured. Like we were waiting for, I want to say the planet tech started to be shipped in the game in 2018. We saw it for the first time in I think 2016, but it reached the game in 2018. Now from the stage of 2018, in fact, check this out. We can look at the roadmap to see roadmap. Thank you. We could look at the roadmap to see actually how this went down. And since I'm so rudely bringing silence into here, let me turn on some music. So go into the release view. We'll expand all these thingies. Let's see, all the way back to 3.0 and expand them. Okay, so first was 3.0, right? They dropped in the planets. Then they did some planetary improvements in 3.1. This was kind of a regular thing that we would see here and there throughout the next several patches. The next one being likely in this patch with Hurston and these moons. But they didn't list anything here. It's probably a small update to the planet tech, but they kept on going and they would add different things. They would do different types of foliage. They added like big cityscapes with R-Corp. They added, like they're talking about here, cold stuff with microtechs and R-Corp's moons actually, and different things to the landing zones. So they just like over time were building up the planetary tech of the game. And during that time, actually, one of the big things that was blocking them from adding derelicts, from adding new types of outposts, from adding interesting ground locations for us was the fact that every time they updated the planet tech, it would wipe everything. So like bases and derelicts and NPCs and people and all these things would just end up underground or underwater, just in the wrong places. So they held off on doing a lot of major permanent improvements until the planet tech was finished. And throughout that time, they got really, really good at making these moons and planets. So like when they made the moons for Hurston, I believe it is, these 4 moons took them, I think gosh, I don't even remember how long it was. It was like months long. And it took, I think, 2 people to do both of them, 2 people as a team to do all of these moons together. Whereas later on, when they got to the point where they were bringing in, I believe it was microtech's moons, one developer was able to do all of the moons in just a couple weeks. So throughout that period that they were getting better and better at the planet tech, you could see how they were improving the tools and the workflows to do everything much better. And you could tell, like when the planet started to come out after microtech, or all the updates that they did this, let's see. They did the Microtech update when it came out, and then they did updated geology. They did updated ground textures. They added in caves, I believe. Caves might have been beforehand, but they changed the height maps, which was a really big deal. And then they came in and they did a final polish pass on the Stanton system that kind of solidified, or no, I'm sorry. They added improvements, and then they did the polish pass on Stanton, which kind of solidified the Planet Tech and allowed them to say, okay, we're moving forward. This is how it goes. And that's why after 3.14-ish, with the final planet, we started to see some of these more unique locations pop into the game. The derelict spaceships, the derelict reclaimer settlements, the rivers, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the story of planetary tech, and that's what they're talking about in the Pillar Talk right here. I just wanted to add a whole bunch of context. And I probably messed up some stuff, got a couple things wrong there, but that's kind of the general story of it. Stream Elements, you need to stop spamming my chat. I'm going to turn that off. I'll keep this playing though.
Rebuilding the planets,
right.
And they rebuilt all our current planets and did Microtech and did all the moons in 2 months. And that's work that we've been working on for the past 2 years previously.
These evolutions are important with these tools, especially with one as large as this, because as we make them, as we make more of them, we learn so much about what we would like to do in the next one.
And for the record, this is the same thing that they're doing with the derelicts right now. So on the last month report, they actually mentioned that a new tool is allowing them to create a destruction path for the derelict ships when they're on the ground that used to take, I believe, a month to do, maybe, or 2 weeks to do, I think they said, which now takes just a couple hours. So what they did with the planetary tech isn't a one-off thing. It's something that they're trying to do with everything that they create for this game. Make it once, figure out how to make it well, make all the assets for it, build the tool so that it's fast, and that allows us to scale as we move forward. And we've kind of seen that in action with the Microtech edition, the Crusader edition, and now with Pyro going through development so quickly, but we're still waiting for the really, like, the sign. Waiting for a sign.
And then we can apply that backwards, and then we learn some more, and we can apply back. It's like, you know, we've been, in the first iterations of them, there was very little hand adjusting. In the next iteration, there was a little bit of hand adjusting. And everything has just evolved over the course of the years. And it kind of lends itself to just what's going to work better for the artist, what's going to give us that sort of feel, but in the amount of time that we can actually spend on it. So I think it's a really important component of it.
3.8 is going to have server object container streaming, so SOCs as we call it. Yeah. So
if server object container streaming is SOCs, then what is client object container streaming? Because I think we need to think about that one, Chris.
What do you see as gameplay benefits?
From my standpoint, the biggest one will be AI and kind of the way that the ships feel in combat as well as the FPS in combat. With our server frame rates, the way that they currently run, it's basically 7 to 10 frames. You know, when we get it running at 30 frames a second on the server.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
You'll see a major benefit.
I mean, so it's a lot less precise than what the client is, and so they get out of sync, and then you get weird behavior, a lag. And so if you get the server frame rate, which our target is 30 frames per second up, then the experience on the client side is better. And a lot of that weird AI behavior that people see, or
clocks,
doors not opening when they should open, isn't actually necessarily a bug. It's just that the servers gummed up or so far behind it, it's not telling the client in time to do stuff.
Exactly.
From my point of view, the biggest improvement on the SOC stuff is really going to be the fact that it's going to break us free from these limitations in terms of how many locations and how much content we can put into the solar system. So it's tangentially related to what Pappy is saying in regards to, he's talking about the frame rate side of it. The part that I'm saying is, well, now we can get all these new locations without impacting the frame rate at all, because the server that you're on is still only loading what's absolutely necessary for the players that are on your server. And so what this is going to allow us to do is put more outposts, more space stations, more derelict ships, more caves, all of the,
See, I feel like this was, when was this? 2018? 2019. This is like, it's like they're talking, it's like they condensed their timeline. I mean, I know that they expected server meshing to come earlier, but they're talking about SOCs like it was what server meshing is doing. And I know those two things are really closely correlated, but Socks really, from what I'm understanding with hindsight and from what we've seen, I could be wrong about this, didn't really have too much of an impact on us. It mostly just had an impact on them. And I think that was a little disappointing because we were kind of expecting an impact on us the way they were talking about it.
All of this content that heretofore we've been so constrained, we've had to basically weigh everything from the point of view of, well, what is this going to do to server performance? Because we know every single server, regardless of whether there's a single player there, is going to have to load this. And so we've already been in the mode for for the last quarter or two to where we're starting to get very sensitive about bringing in new content, whether we can afford it.
We've been that way since our corp went in. Yeah. I mean, I think with 3.7, we wanted to put at least 100 caves in, and at least.
Oh no!
100
in, I think we got 15.
I think right now, if you take a look on the servers, I think it's anything like 500,000 entities. It could be millions of physical entities, and so even with really powerful servers, which we have, that can take more time than we want. So the whole idea of server OCS is that you try to only have the bits you need to be simulating with, and therefore the frame rate should be higher. So our target server frame rate is 30 frames a second, and like you said, currently, with everything overloaded with content, it can get down to 5 or 6 frames a second, and that's when you don't have such a great experience, even if you have a high frame rate locally.
Absolutely, yeah, and
I think that, yeah, never mind.
For me, it's on the two different sort of pillar sides that I have. So on the technical content kind of side, the big difference is actually because we deal with the tool.
We got a poll up in the YouTube chat. Oh no, we got a poll up in the Twitch chat. Check it out. Hit it up, Twitch chat. Let me know what your answers are.
Tools and the developer tools on that side. I think the biggest difference for us will be some internal differences, the turnaround time for us to run. So, we're using so much RAM right now on the servers. So to be able to spin up the entire universe on a local dev box on just, a normal kind of workstation was getting to the point that either one, it took a long time to get that thing loaded, because without server object container streaming, it didn't work like the client did, which was just loading what it needed. It was going to bring everything in. So that took some time. But then additionally, we're at a point that you would just run out of memory. You wouldn't be able to do it. So we even put developer tools in place to be able to exclude stuff from the universe. But that would mean that if you ever had to do testing on any of those ones you've excluded, you got to shut down, restart up. So basically, the developer workflow is going to be a lot better because the turnaround is going to be a lot quicker.
The next stages is using the tech in the...
You know what the biggest teller about this was? That they had to take out Delamar after this talk, right? Didn't Delamar leave after they talked about server-side OCS allowing them to kind of unlimit themselves per area? I think they were just way too enthusiastic about this. They were talking about it in a way that just doesn't really reflect what actually happened with it. That really bums me out. I mean, I didn't really think server-side OCS was going to be huge because client-side OCS was already a big thing, but like looking at this pillar talk, it feels like they were saying it was going to be huge. Oop, did I just jump forward a lot? Where was I?
It could be millions of physical entities, and so even with really powerful servers, which we have, that can take more time than we want. So the whole idea of server OCS is that you try to only have the bits you need to be simulating with, and therefore the frame rate should be higher. So our target server frame rate is 30 frames a second, and like you said, currently, with everything overloaded with content, it can get down to 5 or 6 frames a second, and that's when you don't have such a great experience, even if you have a high frame rate locally.
Absolutely, yeah, and for me, it's on the two different sort of pillar sides that I have. So on the technical content kind of side, the big difference is actually because we deal with the tools and the developer tools on that side. I think the biggest difference for us will be some internal differences, the turnaround time for us to run. So we're using so much RAM right now on the servers. So to be able to spin up the entire universe on a local dev box on just a normal kind of workstation was getting to the point that either one, it took a long time to get that thing loaded, because without server object container streaming, it didn't work like the client did, which was just loading what it needed. It was going to bring everything in. So that took some time. But then additionally, we're at a point that you would just run out of memory. You wouldn't be able to do it. So we even put developer tools in place to be able to exclude stuff from the universe. But that would mean that if you ever had to do testing on any of those ones you've excluded, you got to shut down, restart up. So basically, the developer workflow is going to be a lot better because the turnaround is going to be a lot quicker.
The next stages is using the tech in the editor, also also in Squadron 42 for the same reasons, where the level of detail that we're putting into all the locations and the star systems that we have in Squadron, requires you couldn't fit it all in memory, and you wouldn't want to fit it all in memory. And the server OCS, which is basically a kind of an authoritative version of the worldview that you can sort of move a viewpoint around and stream in just the bits you need and stream out, it would make a big difference for that.
Yeah, when your iteration loop just takes that amount of time. I mean, you'll move things once, you'll move things twice, and then you'll be, it's okay. I mean, I kind of spend 10 minutes, making that little tweak. But that's what Star Citizen is. We're about that kind of quality. We want that kind of iteration loop. So things like elevators, glitching out with you falling through them, halfway through them, and
had a stoner dude at ATC. He better not have lost his job. I want to see him in Knicks.
Happen. It comes down to a feel thing. Things are responsive. Things are actually feeding back to you when you expect them to. When you hit a guy, he's actually when the ragdoll happens, you see it at the same time. So to me, it's kind of those two things. There's a bit of feel in that, the responsiveness.
And not only the whole 2-year thing, but like they honestly we're talking about server-side OCS here like it was the product and not the building block. Interesting. Like they didn't even mention server meshing in this conversation.
In one server, that is.
In theory, it definitely should. I think we're at the point now to where we haven't yet done sufficient testing that we would basically want to definitively say one way or the other. That's certainly what we're thinking we're going to want to be, we're certainly going to be doing tests and seeing how far we can push it. It is possible that as you completely remove one bottleneck, that you expose some other things that also need to be dealt with, and whether we'd be able to, whether those would be, egregious enough in terms of a problem, or whether you'd be able to quickly, patch them up and deal with them and push it out with 3.8 with a player count, or whether some of that stuff would have to move to 3.9. That part we don't yet know, but that's definitely where we're headed.
Yeah, and to explain why that profiling is so important and the real reasoning.
Server meshing was too far out, but I think if you're talking about server-side OCS in this context of like, hey, it's going to allow us to stream things in and stream things out and like localize how we're loading stuff in, you can't just leave out server meshing. It's like talking about a rotary engine and being like, yeah, this thing is going to get you everywhere you need to go. It's going to do it differently from an internal combustion engine. It's going to be new and fabulous and amazing technology, and you're going to be able to get the places you got to go for less fuel. And they don't even mention the fact that it's going into a car. I'm hoping that they bring it up at some point in this conversation, and I know that they were already talking about server meshing at this point because they hired one of the devs specializing in it the year before this. So I don't know. It's weird.
Player account, because it has a little bit to do with how players play, where they're going to be positioned.
Code with that guy?
But,
which guy?
Conceptually, you could end up in a state that we've got, let's say 200 players that are in every single location, every single object container, and it's actually
it has no wheels
loaded in the end.
It looks cool,
but it really depends on how the players
you
are playing.
Just don't film the bottom half of the car
in here, because there is an edge where we go too far that it's actually not helping us as much. But I think even in that case, we're still going to be better.
But that's a perfect.
Fine, they're internal combustion, not traditional.
SOX is really it's a building block towards the future in terms of, yes, if you actually had a perfect distribution of players, then you could wind up eliminating much, if not necessarily all, of the benefit of SOX. The server mesh would eventually fix this by simply going, oh, well, you're over in this area, we're going to mate you to a server that only covers items in that area, and therefore, the long-term path will deal with that, very elegantly.
With what? Server meshing?
Server-side OCS. We don't have the full universe persistence in. So
yeah, it's an internal. Sorry, guys, I misspoke. Just not traditional internal combustion.
We're going to have a more enhanced version of persistence in 3.8 than we previously had. So if you buy things or rent things or do stuff with in-game money that you've earned, and the in-game money you earn will have the ability to persist it between patches even from 3.8 onwards. But the proper persistence is I go anywhere, I take my Elroy's cup, put it, I get my coffee
cup
at the space station, I take
coffee
it with
cup
me,
in
I
the
get on
forest.
Spaceship, I fly to a planet, I walk in a forest, I litter, I drop it on the floor in the forest, I get off, I fly away, and then Sean flies to the forest and sees an Elroy cup when he arrives in that area. So
and I grab it and I sell it.
Yeah, there you go. So,
but then you come back and you think that there's a bug in the game because it's gone, whereas in reality, Sean took it.
Yeah, so the second stage of the SOX is the full persistence comes in with what we call the iCache, which basically...
it's another thing that had to change since then.
will save out all the state and position of any item in the game when you move away from it. So if you have to, which is what's happening on the server right now, it streams out like what's there, and right now we're persisting it in the server's memory, but we aren't persisting it back to a cloud database just yet. So if you play the session...
So I kind of feel like this must have been around the time that they realized server meshing would need to be different. I'm not going to say that that's true or false. That's just what I kind of feel. They hired new talent in the year or so before this. The way that they're talking about this with the iCache and the way that things persist sounds like they didn't quite have the concept of replicating everything yet. So they hadn't quite come up with the replication layer, at least not to the point where they wanted to let us know. So it feels like this was around when things were changing from just the basic server streaming things and more into, we got to separate the simulation from the backend database. Oh, I wish we could know what kind of internal communications were going on. 2019 seems like it was a pretty transformative year, because 2020, no, we didn't hear that much about server meshing in 2020. That was when they kind of let us know that this is what's going on with Pyro. So that they must have understood what they wanted to do by 2020. But 2019 sounds like they were kind of, we were in for some chap, as my favorite dropship driver would say.
And you drop stuff, put stuff everywhere, it'll all persist in the session in 3.8 server OCS. But in a future version, I don't know when iCache is coming in, but with that, what will happen is, besides us saving the state, which we already will do in memory in 3.8, it will then save it to a backend database. So if you come back a week later and go to that location, as long as Sean hasn't come and stolen my cup, and I go back and go, oh, I dropped my cup on the forest, the cup will be there. And the really cool thing about that is that all the dynamic items, whether they're cups or
digital design,
or guns or armor suits or a note you leave someone, will persist in the world where they are. And I don't really know any MMO that has that level of detail at the scale that we have that allows you to do that. And so that is very cool, because once that's running, that also means that, like, you want to create a settlement on a planet,
you can.
you can.
Yeah, that's the big part of it. Is it's emergent, and they're actually affecting the world, the universe. In so many games, it's all very scripted. It's all very, they say you're affecting the world, but hey, after 200 fights and all that, there's no direct affection, right? But this is actually an evolution by the players. They're again creating settlements, setting up things.
That slow zoom.
I think that's exciting.
In 3.8,
melee combat.
Being a fun of fight.
Who in here ever uses melee combat? Now, that doesn't count punching your crewmate until they've passed out on the floor and then dragging them out of the airlock. No. I'm like, who's actually fought somebody hand to hand, or at least with knives, and not because you were trying to have a fun time at a bunker? This is 2019 this year. Not this year. The year this was 2019, like end of the year. You use knives for bunkers. Yeah, see, that's what I'll talk about.
Club, we have something else
it's going to be real fun to listen to how they talk about hand-to-hand combat back then.
coming, which I think is kind of cool. We've teased a bit.
This is a real exciting feature that's actually coming in. It's not just melee combat with your fists, it's melee combat with some melee-type weapons. And I'm not sure, we are going to introduce a knife into the PU. We'll put it in the shops and everything. So with melee combat, you get the ability, of course, to make some punches. And it's not just, simple one punch. We put, a little bit of thought into this, a little bit of fun into it. There's some combos that you can do. You can decide to do, a heavy right or a quick jab.
You
You're
can
going to be the
block
quick
too,
attacks,
right?
and you can block on top of it. But it's important. It's not just like a permanent, easy block where you're just like you put it up and then no matter what they do, they can't.
That guy's like,
It's
dude.
positional as well. Huge prop.
That's a knife, dude.
Actor feature team, because
they
were proper OCD over getting this thing done. I mean, I remember seeing a video that, and I think they just sped it up. They showed me sort of pass one, pass two, and then it got whether they were doing this. When I see
that was a problem.
when I see version 58, I'm going. Oh, nice, guys.
And we've already started to integrate this into the law system so that punching on other people is a crime. You will have, there will be penalties
But it's not
applied.
quite as bad as blowing and killing them.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole purpose of the law system, which is we can basically meet.
It wasn't BS about the streaming of things in and out, because that's what they do. That's why Let's see, what's an example of that? I mean, that's why when you jump to a new planet, like things won't have been loaded in yet because they haven't been streamed in. But they aren't necessarily, they aren't separated. That's our problem, is that it's all still streamed in on the same server. So I guess I need to go back and listen to exactly what they were saying, because they might have not said anything that has to do with the actual server meshing, and everything they could have said was true. It's just the way that they were talking about it made it sound like it was more important than it was. And I think that's kind of what Anna was getting at with the chat. Like, that explains the whole, oh, it's 2 years away every time they had a technological breakthrough. Now, luckily, we're finally at a point where, I mean, I say we're finally at a point where we're hitting a real milestone with server meshing. But the absolute worst thing would be if server meshing were to come out and then they'd be like, okay, now server meshing was a good step towards this. But I don't think that's the case. I think dynamic server meshing is kind of an end goal for this path of the development.
Yeah, different levels of punishment.
And different areas we can, like, so for instance, maybe in Grim Hex, no one cares. You can get into fist fights, but if you're getting into a fist fight in the middle of Area 18, that's not so cool.
Another reason why this is actually really important is there will be certain areas within the game to where you're restricted from carrying weapons, prison being one of them. It's like when you're in prison, you don't actually have guns or any of the traditional stuff. So if you want to be able to defend yourself, you'd better be fairly good at hand-to-hand fighting.
The last part of Melee, which I didn't mention, was also the takedowns, which is another thing that comes in as part of that. So
I don't feel like staggered development was a lie, though. Like, it feels like we're still seeing staggered development, right? When we're watching, when we're looking at ICS back in April or May, and we're looking at things that they're supposed to be working on for 3.17.2, they were previewing us stuff that was being worked on for 3.18. So technically, it seems like they're still staggering that work and doing work 2 quarters beforehand and then finishing it up the last quarter. I don't think that was a lie. I think it just wasn't as big a deal as they made it seem like it was going to be.
So that is
which is kind of like this.
Something that you can do player to player, so nobody's paying attention or anything like that. You can avoid it a little bit, but you also get that component.
You attack
of it too.
people
So
in their
if you're
prison.
In a fist, you got a lot of different ways to take somebody out.
Yeah, and of course, the other big one that will have a very big impact on some of the missions and stuff is the potential for stealth gameplay, and that type of stuff. Whether it's actually knives or just silent takedown, sleeper holes, whatever else.
We got some cool mission stuff coming in at 3.8.
The biggest introduction would be the 890 jump mission.
Still a
from
classic.
There, we're doing a lot of kind of quality of life.
Still one of the, what is this, 3.8? And the 890 jump mission is still one of the better missions to go do.
Passes on the way that the mission works, how things are doled out to the player, what actually happens in the mission. Some of them are a little bit boring, and figuring out how we can interject new things. Same with interjecting AI and other aspects to freshen it up.
Yeah, and that's one that we want to capitalize on going forward. I think we're at the point now to where the combat is mature enough, and some of the other loose ends that we need to tie up.
There's definitely improvements to the combat that will be in 3.8 that you haven't seen, that people haven't seen in 3.7, or didn't even see in the video we did with because that was super early work in progress on the 890 jump mission. That I think all the time the AI is getting better. Their ability to pathfind, beyond 3.8, or just pathfinding on planets, or arriving on a ship, getting off a ship, getting coming in as reinforcements.
Transitioning between different zones.
Yeah, people riding. AI riding the tram, for instance.
Yeah, but that's a huge one.
But that's one of the most interesting ones to me, which
not in 3.8, just to let everyone know.
I would say
it will be in 3.9.4.0. Also, one other thing we're delivering with 3.8 is the space stations or rest stops. Mm-hmm. You want to tell us a bit about that? Because it's greatly expanded from what we have.
Yeah, just the overall size of them, the visual difference between them, the hub sizes that are in there, the way that we procedurally generate them. We've got.
I wish they had kept the older rest stops. I really like those.
Orbit around planets.
So there'll basically be a sort of geosynchronous station that will be for each one of the major planets. So you don't have to go all the way down to you can go there, you can save in orbit versus having to go all the way down to the planet.
And also certain people that have certain ships that will not be able to land on planets.
They can go there. Yeah.
Yes, they can go there and then obviously get transferred down.
Did they say something about 4.0?
Long term project we have is sort of the combat, right? So there's the FPS combat, which you get, you already hinted at that you've been increasing some of the reaction and the speeds.
Exactly.
We've still got more to do. I think there's some more networking stuff that we have to do to make that better. Vehicle combat's another big one, right?
We didn't mention that is coming into 3.8 is the Animus missile launcher. It's a FPS missile launcher. It's got a 3-missile sort of range.
The gameplay is not as simple as, lock missiles, fire, and basically you're going to do a lot of damage. It's you need to get in close enough, or first you need to wear down their scout ships, or first you need to knock out the defensive turrets, or first you need to do, one of a number of different things so that you can actually get that torpedo, through those defenses and actually impact these, these big capital ships, where we really want to start drawing a multitude of players and or AI units together and get them all fighting and making it feel like one big fleet battle, as opposed to these much smaller scale things that we've had to date.
And there was one thing I was going to say on the vehicle experience team that's kind of a cool thing that I like for 3.8 is we've implemented this look ahead system, which sort of simulates the way you are, like if you ever look at, Terada's had all these really cool, badass flying stuff, but he's got, he's using the FOI, I'm not sure if it's track IR, he's using our FOI ped tracking. But you can see as a pilot or as a car driver, when you're turning, you actually look, you turn in. So the look ahead.
All right, that kind of wraps up most of the important or interesting topics here. Hey, I left a comment back then. Staggered development is just a bad term for standard development. But you feel like they were kind of lying when they introduced it? Let's see. So that was 3.8. Well, let's look at the 3.9 one. I'm really excited for the 2021. Let's look at 3.9 first, though. So this was the next update after that. In fact, real quick, before we get into it, let's double check what was actually going on in 3.9 so we know what they're going to talk about. So 3.9, we were getting Microtech with the interior for the city. That's cool. We were getting a prison for the first. Oh, they're going to talk about the law system in this talk. That should be interesting. We're going to pick that apart. Talking about 3D AI navigation, talking about player interaction improvements, player status system, weather locomotion. Okay, this should be an interesting talk. I'm sure they'll talk about some future stuff here. 3.9 was a great patch. I don't even remember. Not lying, but exaggerating. Yeah, well, that's what they do. That's what the whole server meshing, server-side OCS feels like it was. What is staggering is how far people go guessing how CIG is working behind closed doors. Come on. No one knows how they were working. Fun to speculate, though. Ooh, it's fun to speculate. Which one removed Levski? I don't remember. Anybody know? Somebody said it was when they introduced Ninetales, so that must have been like 3.12 or so. 3.12, 3.11. You liked when it was called the actor status system. What is it called now? I thought it was still called that. You joined in 3.9. 3.9 seems to make people happy. Lying suggests intent, and that's whoa. What does that sound? I don't know that sound. Oh, it's a raid. Holy crap from Croncy. Yo, Crons Dog, thank you so much for bringing in the folks. Much love to everybody jumping on in here. Welcome. Thank you, Cranky Old Man, for subbing up. Very much appreciated. Oh boy, we got the where are my salutes? Where are my Croncy salutes with the red beard? Red beard Cronce. We're gonna run an event here shortly, actually. We're trying to set something up. A little I won't spoil the surprise, but I can't wait, Croncy. Roundtable Scream was amazing, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a good talk. It went much more smoothly than I thought it would. You know how tech problems are. I thought we were gonna have so many issues, but we actually were able to run it first try. What were you doing today on stream, Croncy? You playing Star Citizen? Do these raffles work for subs only? No, anybody can get into the raffle. They are spawned by people subscribing to the channel, but they are able to be entered by anyone. Get you some points. And if we reach our sub goal today, I will be putting on a secret code onto the stream for anybody who wants to get a couple extra entries into my 400i giveaway going on. If you type an ! giveaway, you'll get a link to that. But yeah, if we meet those goals, put in a little extra for you. Old inventory was a nightmare. Yes, it was. God, it was terrible. Old everything was a nightmare. Old star map. The old star map is going to make the old inventory look like nothing, though, right? Like, I think the old star map has gone down in history at this point as being one of the most frustrating things to persist in this game for the longest amounts of time. The Gleam link on the website still refers to the Oh, what? That doesn't sound right. I just clicked onto that page. No, it should be the 400i. That's what I'm getting. Unless it's a Gleam link through something else that was other than what was just posted in chat. Which Gleam link are you clicking on? It is such old tech. It really is. You think there will be no new star map? It's just a scam. Star map's a scam. It's actually just a stuffed animal. We're actually just going to get a picture of a new star map, and that's it. It's referring you to that one. That's strange. You should be getting the link to my website, and the giveaways page on my website should have that link. That is very weird. Can you send whichever... Yeah, tell me which specific link is doing that. Is it a command or a timer or what?
Welcome back to Pillar Talk.
Wow, were we away for commercial break?
Welcome back. Flashback.
You can use this link to get it. Oh, okay. Thank you. I know what you're talking about.
Pillar Talk, just a real quick
Cool.
recap
Let me let
for
Mrs.
what
Tomato
these
knows.
are, reminding people what these
She's
are.
the
So
master.
During the week, we generally do Inside
Master of that
Citizen,
stuff.
Star Citizen Live. Those shows are a little bit more about the what and the how, whereas this show's supposed to be about the why. Generally before or during a release of an upcoming patch for Star Citizen. So we have 3.9. That's the one that we're all talking about. That's hot on our lips these days. So we've got a lot of content, as you guys probably know. I don't know if you knew that. New missions, new Babbage and its 3 moons are coming, prisons, actor status system, Spirit Prowler, and M50 updates, volatile cargo, and so much
What did
more.
they change the actor status system to, by the way? Raven, I missed what you said.
Get there, Chris. Hold on. So obviously many of those features have been talked about a lot lately on some of our shows. So we kind of want to talk about other features, 3.9 features, and other tech being put in on 3.9. So I wanted to jump in first to Unified Friends List. I
Right
look
on.
at Sean Tracy
Yeah,
to
cool.
kind of take us through that.
So why do a unified friends list? Well, you got to understand what.
Because we like our friends. You know what drives me nuts about this? They still haven't gotten to the point where we can just add people to a chat room or a game from Spectrum. At least I don't think they have. Maybe they have. It's nice to be able to add people as friends, but like, you can't add org members. You can't see org members. You can't do a lot of stuff with the friends list. It's annoying. Player status system, I see. Because Ask didn't work well. Wait, that means they should have stuck with it.
So as somebody on Spectrum is adding you, we wanted to see that in the game immediately.
Whether it's
Like, hey, Jared, what are you presenting ISC on to this week? Oh, I'm just going to show them the ass.
continue to finish it off, which would be including
Right,
like
and-
the
Zinger.
VoIP and the FOIP
Exactly,
communication
yes.
between
What's
the
up,
platform
Polite?
and in game.
Doing well today, thank you.
As a more rich presence, you
Yep.
kind of would know. Oh yeah, look, Sean's on Hurston. I can actually be in Spectrum.
Exactly.
Seeing
No,
Sean,
exactly.
and I can
You
see.
This when you guys came into the
Look at
game,
you right now,
this
he's
patch is
stamped on
corrupt.
Hurston.
Right. So it's just stuff that, honestly just needed to get worked out. And this is the inevitable, starting mark for what is really social management tools. So it's not full rich presence yet. We can't tell you exactly where in the verse they are. I can say you're online and you're in the PU. And there was one thing as well that, I really hope forward we move into, and it's something that you had mentioned a long time ago, and I think it's the orgs really want this, but it's being able to, within some sort of social panel, social control, be able to work on, the military calls it radio etiquette. Where the commander can talk to the captain can talk to the pilot, pilot can talk to, but let the orgs sort of organize that stuff. So all those controls, whether that's org alliances and
No, organize
all
it
these
for
kind of
us.
Things that's where this will all go to. It gives the players the ability, well, They had the ability.
Ooh, 2.3.
An easier way to play together.
Classic.
Which really should just be a no-brainer. Right?
I think I was
Should just be that
2.6.
easy. I wish we could do it with our emails, but
Yeah, of course. We could. So that's so great. So the unified friends list obviously is quite a cool feature coming. Plus the foundation.
I think I pulled a muscle in my neck.
Persistence.
That hurts.
We obviously did some stuff for 3.8.2.
Yep.
Right. And so now what do we got for 3.9?
Wait, what is this? We're watching the Pillar Talks from back in the... Oh, persistence. This is a good talk.
Did some stuff for 3.8.2.
Yep.
Right. And so now what do we got for 3.9?
Love the talk with Grumpy Eye. That was a good one.
A redundant question to ask what persistent does for us, but what is this?
I mean, I guess you can answer the
I mean,
question.
we go to 3.9, the stuff that you've earned so far in 3.8.2
Exactly.
will stay with you.
Me personally.
So for anybody who doesn't know, 3.8.2 was when we got our first version of persistence. That was when a ton of people decided this game was good enough, and I think that's why some of you guys jumped in with 3.9, because this was when, for the first time in the game, your progress wouldn't reset every quarter. A lot of people think that's still the way it is. They think there are constant wipes and they'll never be able to progress, but like it wasn't up until this patch, or the patch right before this, in the beginning of 2020, that we finally were able to be like, okay, you can now play the game, progress, earn a ship, come back the next quarter, and still do stuff for fun. That was, oh man, that was a big change. Glad they got that in, though.
Personally, I think it's a big step in the right direction. We can lose some in-game persistence, but we can't really lose people like their earned UEC or their items they bought and the ship they bought in-game, right?
So and hopefully we've cleaned up some of the
Second
initial
version, right?
glitches of it. I mean, of course, I think we'll, if there's an exploit and someone's figured out a way to get a couple billion credits, we reserve the right to either individually edit those people's accounts, so we can just take the money or the items.
Oh my God.
Or
Or
apply a
just-
general cap.
Or just do a general cap, as Paul says, or even occasionally we may decide, well, we need to just reset the database and do a general wipe, which we're going to try not to do that.
Literally, they did all of those things in the last 2 weeks. This was foreshadowing 2 years prior.
If possible, but you never know, because we're constantly adding sort of new structures. So we got our next, the next stage on the persistence, which Paul can probably talk about, is sort of the iCache side of it, which is more more fidelity in the persistence. So what we have right now is saying, well, these are the items you have, and we're storing those in a way that can survive the patches, but we're not necessarily storing like every item. We need the iCache, the foundational, that sort of micro persistence to do the physical inventory, and that's a big thing. And the other thing that opens up, which is sort of the next stage, which is sort of like bigger things, but it would be now, because we can persist anything. You can be a player or an organization. You can go down onto like all those beautiful shots that people share of Microtech and go.
Video volume is kind of maxed out. Let me see if there's something else I can do.
That technology there that is what we need to be able to do that, and that is our plan. So when that's online, we're working on the aspects that would include sort of what you would call base building. So you would go there, you'd have to bring in the right resources and sort of create your little homestead or your base. So organizations or players can create their own areas of interest, and essentially will help sort of build out and populate the persistent universe as much as we on the game design side. So as we get these things on, as we get closer to that, we get closer to this sort of completely sort of dynamic universe that you can sort of go anywhere, leave things, build things, destroy things, pick things up. It's
How's the video volume? Is that okay? I boosted it as much as I can, but I don't have, it's maxed out on my
Get
computer.
to that, it's going to be pretty amazing.
Exactly, and like iCache is obviously one piece of the puzzle, which is our internal high-speed database to store all that data, because obviously that's a lot of data, right? If every single bottle can be persisted and restored, but even iCache is just one piece where server OCS is a big part of that too, right? So something needs to take the data and stream it in and stream it out and restore it properly. And there's a lot of
Good, cool. I'm gonna go grab some water, guys. Tell me if I miss anything good.
Now, which obviously people won't see, like all the features you talk about, like they come eventually, but people won't see them in 3.9 just yet. But we built a lot of the foundation yet.
Well, yeah, because
and like the server OCS on the server, for example, when we we rolled that out in 3.8, which was a big win for us. I think people out there, they were like, oh, we expected to be like better performance or whatever, while in reality it is one giant building block to like get to this full persistent universe. Right now, without other tech, which is not there yet, you don't really see the benefits yet. But for us internally, it's a real big milestone to get to exactly that vision where we can store every single object, and we can stream that area out, and we push all the changes player did to that, like we push that up into the database, and then when someone else comes back to that area, we stream it all back, and it comes back in the exact same state.
If you have the iCache and you have the server streaming, which we have, they work together, those two are necessary for the server meshing.
Oh yes, exactly.
In the server meshing, because we can have tens, hundreds of servers all communicating with each other, we just need to be able to save out any arbitrary area with its full state, which means whatever items were there or not there or whatever, to some backend, so that when we come in, we can stream it back in. Whether we stream it on this server or this server or this server, the state is the same between all of us. And then you also should get much more of the performance impact. So yes, well, like Paul says, while you don't see the front end feature yet, getting these things in are actually quite exciting for us technically, because once they're in, that we know, okay, now that enables this next stage, and once we get these several stages in, then all of a sudden, all this great sort of dynamic, tactile, universe with state that can go there with many, many players all together in the same areas becomes possible.
No, there was just so many layers of it. Yes. And we talked about it in the last Pillar Talk exactly, and it was all theoretical. But I did mention one other benefit during that last Pillar Talk that absolutely was in place, and Paul mentioned it, but the load times. The thing was just generally now default for a developer. It's about 7 gigs when it loads up. It's so light. In comparison to the 45 that it was.
Before
exactly.
It was loading the entire universe. And now as a developer,
right.
All right, would I miss anything good? Seriously, was there anything good? I want to rewind if I missed anything. Otherwise, we will keep going.
We have one server and one client, and I'm the only client, and I see like a lot of benefit with that.
It's crazy.
The server starts up immediately.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Big benefits behind the scenes for us.
Yeah, exactly. The quality of life, not just in the front end, which is this long-term thing.
Wow, I missed a lot.
With developers, and that's really cool to hear,
Yes,
right?
100%.
That's something that you may not notice. So with 3.9, we're focusing now on quality of life with this release.
Yeah, and quality of life can mean a lot of things.
And you know what they did? All right, let me say something. Quality of life still sucks. But before they actually started putting in things that helped with quality of life, it was so bad. It was miserable. It was god awful. Like, they started to slip quality of life fixes into these updates, like little things that weren't listed on the roadmaps, and things started to get much better. Not amazing, but like definitely better, because God, I remember how much people were like, please just start adding some quality of life stuff. And we still need it. Don't get me wrong. God, we still need it. But it's gotten a lot better.
As far as the player is concerned, so from my standpoint, a big focus has been, and it's mandated from Chris and Aaron, which is the player experience, the quality of life of playing the game.
Hydrate.
So there's no frustrations, there's no annoyances. They can do the things, they can play the way they want to play when they want to do it, basically, in an intuitive way. But I think it also goes down to a more technical level, which is sort of build stability.
We're definitely trying to have a stable build and try to at least be as stable as the previous build or even more stable, and we're willing to hold the build before it goes live for a little longer to get to that stage.
That did not stay true.
Push it out and say, oh, we've made exactly this date, but it's crashing all the time.
Exactly. And so there's always the balance between like, obviously you can't spend too much time on it, because that takes away development time.
And you also
but it also needs to be enough time so people can actually enjoy the game and like start playing the game.
I'll tell you, and sometimes it sort of goes up and down a little bit, because for instance, server OCS, right? That actually was a massive fundamental change in the back end, because like parts of the universe just would not exist in the server anymore, and they used to, and so we would see issues that would get with that we would never see before. And so I think when server OCS came in at the beginning, we got a little bit, we took a little hit of the stability, but we've been fixing and moving those things on. In general, we're doing lots of little things. I think also, by the way, isn't in this 3.9, we've reduced the
the latency.
the latency.
The rewind.
What's up, UT? And Raven Queen, thank you so much for subbing. Appreciate you been hanging out. Thank you for the support. I hope make sure to check out those extra videos we got on Discord as a subscriber on Twitch.
When did I talk about this last on IC? I can't remember when, but yeah, the PU benefit's a tiny bit less than Arena Commander because it's really good when the server performance is perfect, right? So once we get
30 frames a second on Arena Commander, great.
Everything's great. Once it gets a little cratery, you know, to the fives or so, but you know, we don't. I guess it does still happen sometimes when the players get all spread out. But anyways. Yes, it's in there, and yes, there is an improvement, especially for a fresh server when it's running really fast.
All right, so another thing we've been working on, player interaction system, personal inner thought improvements.
That's a long title.
Tell us a little about some of this?
So, you know, when the players are playing, very commonly they'll have to go to the button mappings. And you've seen this on live streams or anything. It hits escape, goes to the control. Okay, how do I pull out the flashlight? Okay, how do I do the dance emote? Okay, how do I
holster my weapons? Which, by the way, is my pet peeve because every time
button.
I'm like testing,
It always changes
and
too,
everyone's
right?
changed
It
the
does.
keys, and I'm like, wasn't holster used to be on J? And they was like, yeah, no, I think maybe it's R now. Oh, but you got to hold R instead of just reload. And I'm like,
Yeah, all these guys are still with the project.
Director, or I'm sure it's the CEO going, how do I go
I know everybody. Eric Kyne Davis, Chris Roberts, Sean Tracy, Paul Randall. No, that's not Paul. Who's that?
You know, like it just got changed. But anyways,
That
to
is
do
Paul.
away with that
Yeah,
completely,
they're all still here.
Not only having good default mappings, anyways, is to be able to give the players some ability to not just remap that, but to have access to all their actions in game, contextually and quickly. We had to
and
cover.
also opens up, like, for instance, like one of my pet peeves is we got all these great emotes.
Yep.
But before to access them, you had to go into chat and like slash dance or whatever.
have to
it would
know
be.
And that's if you know they're there.
And if you know they're there,
Right.
and then the whole idea of the personal inner thought system was to sort of open up, you know, different stances or action, like whether you could want to be dancing or sitting down or whatever it would be, or, you know, all the various emotes, salute. And so it's just one place you can go select it, and the concept is sort of, it's a little bit, I mean, because, you know, I've talked about this for a while, which is
I know,
you know,
it's
the kind of the StarCraft
Yes.
method, right?
Yes.
Or which is you go there and you can play StarCraft with just the mouse.
Yep.
But once you start to learn the hotkeys, then you sort of become you're the pro player. You can do things much quicker.
You also have to know this is like one of the biggest issues. This is a super clear example of how much they need to improve the new player experience. How many new players in chat right now have never used the personal inner thought system or don't know what it is because they're god awful at explaining it to people? And I've found that a lot of people don't realize it's there when it can be very helpful. Like the personal inner thought system, can basically show you the key bindings for any control you might need, contextually updating whether you're in a car or a ship or anything like that. B, you can change your key bindings without having to go into the actual pause menu, which is pretty nice. 3, you can assign specific actions to the personal inner thought system. So for instance, I put one on unequip my helmet so that every time I have to eat, all I have to do is right click and then press unequip my helmet. So yeah, it's good and it's there and people use it. It's iffy. But the fact that they're so bad at explaining to people that it's even there is kind of annoying. And that's the kind of stuff they really need to fix with the new player experience.
But what we need is just someone, all they know is the simple, you know, FPS, WASD, running around, your interaction key, your mouse. And with that, you should be able to do everything, figure out how to use a ship, how to use weapons, how to do all these things, access all these actions. And that really was the idea of the
and that was the
thought.
intent. That was the exact intent that he gave to us, which was, you know, make playing the game a little bit easier. That's really what that comes down to, is playing that easier out of the gate.
Right.
That was the thing, because the controls haven't really changed. But your access to those is. So now you don't have to go into our key mapping stuff, which actually isn't connected to our
I agree with you there, Mike. They need to consolidate the interaction system.
Illustrator. You have to go into a big list and figure out where your key's going to be, or where your button's going to be.
Yeah.
Check.
Within the inner thought, within the radial, you can just assign the key right there, and it even tells you what it is. So you can adapt your style of play in situ to different shortcut commands if you want, or just kind of remap it all right there where you want it to be. So that's really nice. But then further to that, we've got shortcuts to different categories. So the idea here is that your interaction system or your inner thought system is like a it's a lighter version of the Mobigas. It's what you're doing in situ. So you're not in barracks preparing your weapon and taking it all apart and cleaning it and doing everything, but you're reloading it or you're changing out the ammo real quick.
And I mean, you kind of touched on it a bit, but the other thing that I think is really cool with it is the fact that you can bind any key to any of the action, and you can rebind dynamically right there in the personal thought. So there's no going to an option screen. Like most games, you always you go to an option screen, you do it. Here, you literally, it's kind of like
as you're doing it.
Car radio, you just hold number 1 for a second, and then it's programmed to the station you're on, right? Well, this is the same thing.
The hint system is nice, but it oftentimes gives you hints at the wrong time, and then it doesn't pop up when you actually need it later. That's what annoys me about that system.
On the fly, the things that you're commonly doing. So you go, oh, you know what? I'm playing with my group, and I want to be able to give them some hand signals because we're playing FPS, and I want to be able to go like this. So you can bind
that to whatever you want.
To whatever keys you want, and you can move it around. So if you don't like, for instance, me going, I hate holding R to holster, and I would rather have, I don't know, like H would have probably been fine for holster, right? H holster, who knows?
It's a good point, Rambo. It is good for controllers.
I think that's a big UX usability positive for the game. And those are all the kind of little things that we need to get into the game.
That's why we're kind of taking some of the stuff into the new role where we're kind of pushing some design and some of the feature teams. Same idea that we used to do our developer tools with, just for our players, because it's like, push the player experience, make it easy for the player to play our game a little bit. And I'm really liking how that's going, and I think it's working. The player experience, make it easy for the player to play our game a little bit. And I'm really liking how that's going. Push the player experience, make it easy for the player to play our game a little bit. And I'm really liking how that's going, and I think it's
working. Dude, yeah.
So yeah.
It's like the most painful part of this game right now.
So attachment UI. So that was something we wanted to talk about a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
understanding what that is. We're going to segue into that.
Whoops.
I think I have to say, wowzers.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Oh, I love wowzers.
Okay, give it to me. Okay. All right, ready? So
Good
speaking
wowzer
of
moment.
boost to our user experience,
Right.
let's talk about new attachments UI. Wowzers.
There it is. Okay, now that I got my wowzer, I will describe.
Sorry.
So the attachments UI is pretty straightforward. You go into a mode through the personal inner thought system. You can go there, or there is
New
also
players
a
are
shortcut
lazy.
to it, where your weapon comes up, and it's basically like the inspect mode that we had when you were going shopping for the weapon. So you could take a look at it, and you've got attachment points on it, and within those attachment points, you got a barrel one, you got an under barrel one, and you got the scope one. As you mouse over each one of them, you'll get a list, or actually not a list, it's going to be a grid. So within that grid, you can select the actual options, and then you just
and there'll be a grid of the things you have that would fit on that web.
And this morning, it was we went from list, and now the grid looks great. Like that works a lot better because you can kind of see what it is rather than seeing NVTAC 18X whatever. Like you know what I mean. So yeah, you can see the scopes. You can add them right on there. You can swap them out as you go, and you can also stow your weapon, which will keep those on it, with an option for later that if you pull out another weapon, you can pull that attachment.
Croncy, I agree with you about the attachment system not looking good, and it definitely is made less useful with the inventory system coming in. But I like the direction of the attachment system. I know a lot of people don't like that whole interacting with it, looking at it in first person. I really enjoy it, and I think if they can clean it up a bit and add the physical animations that they probably are going to talk about in this conversation that still aren't in the game, granted aren't that important, I think it will feel a lot better. And I'm guessing that like the way that they change the inventory system, it'll end up being more useful in the future. But yeah, it's a good idea with not a great look, which I think is a lot of their UI, to be honest. So fix that.
That weapon and put it on the other one.
And also, like I said, when we shift to physical inventory and just be more tactile, this is necessary interface because pulling up your character as a thing, that's like a paper doll, like an RPG paper doll thing, and we want Star Citizen to be much more sort of in situ, tactile. I see things, I interact with them. Hey, I need to put a scope on. I put a scope on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that system is from straight from through CryEngine into StarEngine.
So these are, like we've been talking about in this session, a lot of the stuff are building blocks towards cooler and bigger stuff that's coming down the road. It's already kind of got benefit and it's cool, but it also enables some of the other stuff. Without these sort of functionality and features, we wouldn't be able to do some of the other stuff that we want to do. That I think ultimately will give you a pretty cool experience.
Absolutely, and it's a great point, because all the features that we just talked about, like all three of these things, the unified friends, player interaction system, personal inner thought, as well as the attachments UI, it's all done through building blocks. We couldn't have done it without building blocks. And actually, there was one little thing that came out of the attachments, and when you're holding the weapon like this, it doesn't do it as much justice as it should. Like, when you have inspect mode, it was cool enough, but really the pose of it, oh man, the guns are cool. It gave me a new appreciation for the way the weapons look, because you get so used to seeing them from the back. Dude, I mean, the Philadelphia.
Yeah, and also to understand the modularity of it,
Is the
right? To like
modularity of
see,
it.
they spent all the time to like break them up properly, to like fit all the sniper scopes properly and all the stuff, and now you can actually see that like swap
I
in
feel
real
bad
time.
admitting it, but I stopped seeing it so much. But then, the time it was, that's
awesome.
Are the alert sounds too loud?
Really happy with how they look.
Okay. Maybe talk a little about New Babbage and the Moons. They want to cover that.
They
Like,
didn't
what's
even
coming
talk
in-
about physical animation, so that was interesting. That's something that they wanted to improve with the customization of the guns. They wanted to make it so that when you did attach a scope to your gun, your character would pick it up, take it off, and put the other one on. Something that I think got slowed up again by the fact that they just realized there's a lot more stuff we got to do first.
This and how they were made and
I really think an environmental site, like I think some people just think, oh yeah, it's New Babbage landing zone, what's special about that? But I think there's a lot of...
All right, I'll turn down the alert volumes. Well, Mrs. Tomato
Our
will.
locations, even though we use procedural tools to help sort of create at scale, they're very specifically authored. We have a lore, we have a universe, we have a history, and you can feel it. And so when you visit the places, you feel that. And I feel like that's kind of one of the things that makes Star Citizen special. Even though we don't have a billion planets or anything yet, you do feel like when you go to Microtech, it is different than you're going to Hurston, for instance, when you go to the moons. And so and as we build tools to allow us to sort of create that stuff quicker, but still with that same level of quality, it'll be great. But I really love that, and I feel like the environment team did an amazing job on New Babbage, and it's going to be fun to go around there and get your burger or get your coffee or just hang out. And there's another nice thing which we also showed off in ISC is that we have the ability now to sort of change our light states based on the time of day. So, it's also the interior New Babbage. One of the really cool things about it is it's one of the first implementations of that. And also, there's a whole area, there's a whole bar with a DJ, and at nighttime there's laser lights, and it's a party scene, and during the daytime it's a bit...
That was on personal request from Chris.
Scene. And it's
both equally cool.
Both equally cool. So it's great. The 3 moons, which I think we've also done some ISC on. That's they actually created those in I think it was like 2 weeks per moon for one person. It was 3 moons. Each one took 2 weeks basically, and those look great. I mean, they're some of our best looking ones. So, and we're, now that team's off doing some stuff in another star system, which is looking quite good, but that's another story.
after 3.9.
But I think there's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely keep people busy for a while. So I think that's really cool. And then, I think the other big thing in 3.9, ding.
Got it. Let's hear it. That's the ending
The other
bell.
big thing in 3.9 is the prisons, which I mentioned kind of at the top, which I think is a unique consequence when you have something like a law system. And so you now end up in a prison, and you've got to do your time. And so there's a consequence to it.
All right,
and
let's
we've got
hear
some
it.
fun stuff, like you can potentially find a way to escape from the prison. You can also go down and sort of reduce your time spent by, mining down in the caves there, and basically getting what we call merits. That will sort of reduce your time earned, it's kind of a fun instrument, and it's also it's a very beginning building block of fully fleshing out sort of the lore and law enforcement, which would include bounty hunting side. So we've got a lot more stuff planned for the prison stuff going beyond this V1 implementation we've got, where we'll have the ability to have prison fights and all sorts of kind of fun stuff,
No.
on the
None of it is fun. It is not fun stuff. It needs a lot of work, please. Thank you.
The other side, the bounty hunting side, we've got some stuff long term where, we want you to be able to track down other players, secure them, put them in your ship, take them, drop them off at the the local advocacy office, and then that person wakes up in the prison, and you'd be able to hopefully track them long term. And so we want you to sort of basically play that Mandalorian style. I mean, like if I watch The Mandalorian, which I'm not sure everyone in England gets to watch this yet, but Stephanie over here, it's great. But when you watch The Mandalorian, it feels very much like it's the sort of Star Citizen experience, which is, it
helps they stole the Cutlass, but
they did steal it. Yeah. Well, David.
Jail should suck, but he just said it's supposed to be fun. So like, you either got to make it suck, or if you say it's going to be fun, make it fun.
Robbins is the lead concept artist on it. I know. He did work on, although he didn't do the Cutlass. But no, he is a great concept person. But anyway, the idea of like sort of bounty hunting and tracking someone is stuff that like we're working towards. So there's a lot. So the prison is like one of the elements that's, again, we talk about putting bits of the gameplay there, and of course we're going to build on top of it. And I think by the time we finished all this stuff, it will be really cool. And that's all the part of things like the prison system is like one element that would add towards making your piracy and bounty hunting and sort of law enforcement cycles all work. And that's one of the elements, but it still needs other stuff, and we will get there. And that's kind of our sort of plan. But it's this iterative point where we put it's like putting another brick in the wall, and finally it's there.
It's always the last 10% which like brings it from
takes 90% of the time.
Something but it also brings it from okay, there's a base system here to actually now it's a polished feature and you can use it intuitive, and it's fun to use.
And that's part of it. I mean, I think that's the challenge is like normal game development. You wouldn't be doing this out there publicly. Yeah. But we, because of the nature of the way the game is, we develop it with the community out there who support us. It's a totally different way, and I actually quite enjoy it because you get sort of the feedback and the early feedback.
100%.
And we can also make things better and more stable, longer term this way. But in the short term, it does present challenges because we always have to make sure that, for instance, we have as stable a build as possible. So we do spend a fair amount of time stabilizing a build that we may not necessarily do if we weren't having to release something every quarter. I think long term it ends up with a better product because we're iteratively testing it and we're iteratively getting feedback. But on a short term basis, it means that you always have to spend some time making sure you're triaging your current build and making sure it's working. So that's time that you couldn't be spending on 100%. A feature or polishing it. So, if you're expecting everything to be fully polished and working brilliantly the very first time you load it up, then it's
sure.
You shouldn't be playing Star Citizen just yet.
And then you would have to wait.
That's the flip side,
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's the big advantage. People can like play right away and like they test out a feature, like the core development.
Like really close.
Not just, I'm part of the last 10% where we polish everything.
Or I'm a beta tester.
You're part of it like from day one almost, right?
I would say a project of this scale. I mean, there's definitely some smaller indie projects where it's very like that, and that's very cool. But like a project of like this size and this scale, there's not many people doing them, and the people that are the big publishers, and the big publishers would never do what we're doing because they just wouldn't want to have to.
That's very true.
To that much.
Could you guys imagine Ubisoft trying to get through this process? Oh my God, it would be terrible. It'd be like, I can't even describe it. I can imagine EA trying to do it, getting like 4 or 5 different studios on it over the course of 10 years, killing those studios to make it happen, and then eventually releasing something that's forced to be on the Frostbite engine and not not doing what it was supposed to. It's just like, publishers aren't going to try and do this. No way. They'll try and do something smaller and more direct and like more mainstream, like an RPG, like, I don't know, say something like Starfield. And that's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. But people are always like, oh man, I can't wait for Microsoft to buy out Star Citizen. It's like, why would Microsoft want this? This is a steaming pile of hell. Like, this doesn't look like fun for a publisher. Maybe once the game is complete, but like, I couldn't see a big publisher trying to do something like this.
feedback.
No, because they're always canceling
early.
them.
Well, it's true. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like
nobody sees that.
like we're not,
Like,
Star,
like 8-year
Star
projects
Citizen
getting
is
shut down.
Star Citizen is never getting cancelled. We're just going to keep working on this thing until it is the best space sim, or universe simulator, I should just say, not really space sim, because it's a complete universe sci-fi simulation game possible, and that's kind of cool, and it's fun to be working on it because it's I don't know, it's like I don't know, feel like Willy Wonka, and it's imagination and whatever you can dream is possible.
All right on. I'm motivated. Let's go.
Yeah. Well,
Willy
you know,
Wonka creeped me out.
honestly,
Fix.
I know. I don't think we have anything more to add. I think that's a great wrap up. If you guys had anything else you wanted to add,
No, I
that's a
think
great-
All right, so that's 3.9. And then we have looking into 2020. This might have actually came before that one. Yeah, this was like 2 months beforehand. But I imagine this is probably talking more about, okay, here we go. See, they mentioned server meshing here. So we finally start hearing about server meshing in the beginning of 2020. I mean, we heard about it before then, but they talked about it. Universe Sim, I love that game. You know, CIG has a private stock. Anyone have a link to its valuation over the year? No idea. How do I know Microsoft hasn't tried to buy out CIG? Maybe they have. Maybe they have. That would be strange, though. What Microsoft is doing in gaming doesn't seem like it would match with what CIG is trying to do with Star Citizen right now. Microsoft is going for a hit every corner of the space kind of thing. The space being the gaming industry, rather than a let's get the people who are obsessed with certain types of games. Like, they're going super general, right? They're publishing Avowed, they're publishing Fable, Forza Horizon, Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Starfield, Fable, Outer Worlds. Like, they're all very they're not generic games, but they're games that are going to have tons of mass appeal and bring a lot of people into Game Pass. Star Citizen doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would have handled that very well. It probably would have crushed their Xbox division. Yeah, and I feel like this has gotten so big at this point that they wouldn't want to sell this off, but I could see them selling off the technology, or at least, selling it out, loaning it out, whatever you call it, letting other people use it for a royalty. Kind of seems like Microsoft is just focusing on making Sony let go of its exclusives. I feel like Microsoft is like running their own game right now, which I really like. They're definitely striking out at competition, but it feels like they're not being reactive anymore. They're being proactive. They have a vision and they're following it, and I love to see it. Not to get too off topic. It'll work. People have already used Vorpex. You're talking about the VR. So you guys have been talking about VR. One of the engine developers who works on the graphics department side of things a lot. Actually, I had him on the stream with me the other week. You can find it in the YouTube past streams, but he is very adamant about getting VR into the game. And I think what a lot of people are wondering is, like, what does it mean to have VR? Does that mean just simply being able to get the game to display on a VR headset while you play? Or does that mean having everything work as a VR game would, with the controllers and the interactions and all that stuff? He wants to be able to get the game to actually run on a VR headset within about a year or two of Vulkan support happening, which is supposed to be at the end of this year. So that's not full VR support by any means, but he would like for people with VR headsets to at least be able to natively see the game in that headset within the next year or two. Who knows if that's going to happen, but that's kind of a goal. Hope they loan out the tech. Star Wars and Star Citizen would be perfect. Hey, I mean, maybe we'll get that with Starfield, to be honest. You want full dive immersion? Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, that was what Sylvan wants to do. Obviously, Sylvan's not running the company, but he is like one of the primary sources of enthusiasm for VR in the project right now. Boats win. I was so surprised when I saw boats on the progress tracker. You don't think full VR support would work? They're definitely going to try for it. They've talked about it. Guessing FaceTime won't work with binoculars strapped to your face. Just eye time. They just like send your eyeballs to people. Just some pictures of eyeballs. All right, let's start this one. Let's look into 2020. This is exciting because this was 1 month before the US really got hit by the pandemic. Everybody's kind of going into the pandemic at this time, but it wasn't taken super seriously. So it's going to be interesting to see how they talked about 2020 versus how 2020 turned out.
No, just Brian.
Okay. All right, we rolling?
I always thought it was close when they were first saying it. You guys.
Okay. Welcome to the longer-term Pillar
2080 Super would run this game as long as you have the other hardware to back it up.
talk. This is a conversation about what will be coming beyond 3.8, so 3.9, 4.0, and potentially beyond. We showed stuff at CitizenCon. Let's talk a little bit about those aspects of what's going to be coming this year in terms of that.
The server OCS stuff is a fundamental piece of the puzzle that's that we needed to solve in order to affect server meshing.
Hey, Rig, thank you for gifting out that sub to the community. Appreciate you getting another raffle started. Everybody on Twitch, ! Join if you'd like to hopefully get some points for our next giveaway. And also a big thanks to Rig. If we do pass our sub goal today, I will be dropping a code on the stream that's going to get everybody a couple extra points into my 400i giveaway, which you can enter by typing an ! Giveaway.
What it doesn't do is allow you to transition from server to server. Therefore, each server is still effectively an island where you have a certain number of players and they can basically go anywhere in that solar system, but they can really only directly interact with other players on that server. And we do give some mechanisms, like when you join parties and stuff, you're given the option to jump over to the server on another player. But what you don't see is things like when I request personal transport, or I request a combat assist, or when I need something that another player could potentially contribute, whether it's via service beacon or whatever else, there's no way for players on other servers to just automatically see that and then basically accept, and then now you two players are basically joined together so that when you go to this location, you're going to wind up automatically transitioning to whatever server he's on. And so it's still a bunch of isolated pockets for now, and that's what still remains to be done in the future, which is allow players to seamlessly move back and forth.
But one of the server OCS. One of the abilities to do that server meshing that we've talked about is the functionality of what we have, which server OCS will deliver, is necessary for the meshing.
There it is. See, I don't know why they weren't saying that the previous year to this. This is a video from February 2020 on their YouTube channel. I don't know why they weren't saying that on the earlier Pillar Talk we were looking at, but this is what I was hoping they'd say. Server-side OCS was big, but it's only a stepping stone for server meshing.
What has to happen is each server, if they're all different viewpoints on the same star system, for instance, we're all linked and we're all playing, that having that server be able to go anywhere and just only deal with that aspect is exactly what you need to have that first, and then the server meshing is stage 2, because then you glue all these servers together that can dynamically have viewpoints around and they all talk to each other.
That's why I said it was a foundational piece of the puzzle.
So I think
he's like, I said that, Chris.
That's one aspect. The other aspect is we're actually with 3.8 going to introduce sort of our I don't know whether you want to call it baby long-term persistence, but the full long-term persistence plan, which we call the iCache. So what we're really talking about is medium term. So what's the proper persistence look like?
I would say that it's getting us away from the traditional concept of saving in a game where I have to explicitly save something at a particular point, and this is just becoming more realistic to where wherever you leave items, wherever you place items, they stay in perpetuity unless some other player, perhaps
or the system we decide to there's too many cups in a location, and we know that'll be a problem when we stream it back in, so we clean up a few before we stream.
I thought you were going to talk about a janitor coming around and cleaning
the cups in the forest, Chris.
I guess that's an option.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. It's you would expect realistically if you left a cup on a table in a place.
All right, the link, the giveaway command works on YouTube as well now.
Yes, that's going to be gone. That's going to be gone.
I do it all the time at the office. It just comes right back to my desk somehow.
And there will be mechanisms for all of these. So if you're actually there to witness.
Don't understand the concept of iCache. Basically, well, the iCache is gone. iCache was superseded by the entity graph. Basically, think of the entity graph as just like to put it into really simple terms, I guess. Imagine you had an Excel sheet of everything that you've ever owned, and it's all on that Excel sheet. Like if you wanted to, you could reach into the Excel sheet, pull it out, and like load it up in front of you. This would be freaking magical. I hope someday we can do that. But imagine that it's like that, and you always had access to everything you wanted. It was just a matter of calling upon it. That's basically the entity graph. Jesus, that freaked me out. It is too loud. You're right. That's basically the idea of the entity graph. It's just the data log of everything that exists, and it's made to be ubiquitous no matter what location or which server is calling on it. Just always available to be pulled on, and always persisting even when the servers drop or the game turns off or your computer crashes.
Then at some point there is going to be a janitor. He is going to come in and he is going to grab that cup and put it over in the sink, et cetera, et cetera.
But the difference beyond 3.8, the iCache system that we're talking about, is not only saving it sort of essentially in memory or off in the local sort of
poster in my background
to a back-end cloud database, so that if you came back a month later, it can be retrieved from the database, and then when you come to that area, the state is the same. So, and that's I think
teamwork.
The really cool thing with long-term persistence is that allows us to
teamwork makes the dream
shape
work.
The world with this persistence.
I have no idea where my wife got
it. As a player, I could make a homestead on a planet and build myself a little outpost or a hut, or deploy some defenses, or place that there, go back, come back, and my home's still there as long as someone else.
And it's not just to be clear, it's not just a you thing. It's like, well, if you build that homestead in the middle of nowhere and someone happens to stumble upon it, then they can interact with it, they can raise it to the ground, they can customize it, they can have them and their friends move in. It's like you don't really know what the state's going to be when you leave things out in these public places.
It's completely emergent behavior that's kind of like what you would see in the real world, really.
These are all actually very simple things to leverage this, long-term persistent functionality.
Yeah, and it sounds so simple, but the emergence of it is incredible.
That's exactly it, but that's what we do so often, which is we build in the low level, the fundamental mechanics, and then you get all of this complex functionality just naturally results.
I think the key is our planets are fully realized. Every single square inch is realized on them. There's a vast amount of real estate, and it's great. I mean, we're going to be working hard, and we build tools to populate this stuff and put outposts. But if the players themselves can also be doing their stuff and creating outposts or bases, then this whole world becomes alive and breathing. And speaking of the resources and the collecting, so one thing we didn't really mention in persistence, but that's a stage that's slightly different than the sort of iCache persistence we've talked about, is persistence of resources on moons and planets, right?
And in fact, I think our team is doing it this quarter.
For 3.9.
For 4.3.9.
I mean, I guess we have persistent resources in the fact that you can go back, but persistent resources don't mean much if they're not done correctly. And so, like, for instance, if you have a mining field and you come across like a really cool area, it has some quantanium on it. Yeah, it's persistent in the sense that you can mine half of it and come back and get it, but it's not persistent in the idea that like it is a deposit that you can come back to day in and day out and know this location for your friends. It's like all the persistence is still not benefited by the scale that we need to see it. You know what I mean? Like when you find a resource that's persistent, it doesn't matter if it's going to persist for 5 hours. You want it to persist for days or weeks. So I'm hoping that while we had this sort of baby persistence going on with PES coming in 3.18 and hopefully server meshing after that, they can start to look into actually boosting the amount of resources and things that we find so that they feel more significant when they actually persist, rather than just, a couple rocks of quantanium staying there overnight.
That's
so
3.9.
Yeah.
So the cool thing with that, right, is that, now there's just always that whatever the mineral is there, but with the persistence, absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone if players are there and they've already mined it out.
And this goes back to...
Thank you for the 100 bits for the food fund, Taryn. I can always count on you. Appreciate you, buddy. Hope you're enjoying the stream.
Again, it's one of the things I find most interesting. Yes, it's discovery. It's actually finding.
And that's exploration and scanning.
That's
and
exactly it.
else.
It's like, and eventually, like right now, we're still very limited. You basically fly over the surface of a planet, and you happen to like come upon stuff. It's like eventually we'll want to be able to like do more analytical, a more detailed analysis of a planet, so that you can find these things. But it's time consuming. It's labor intensive. Requires equipment.
It's here.
That's exactly it.
Because a lot of times you find the rocks and you're like, I don't know which one it is.
Not only is it,
or I don't remember.
Not only is it here, but it's most of these things, excepting things like plant growth that regrow and things like that. But when you're talking about metals and minerals and things like that, there are a fixed quantity of those within the ground in a given area, and that's what we're looking to deliver for 3.9. So that there is this much gold in this particular area, and if you happen to extract it, over the course of a day or 2 or 3 days, whatever, it's like there will gradually become less and less and less, and then you need to go out and find a new location, and this is where it starts getting interesting. To where
conflict over the
that's
locations,
exactly
right?
it.
So,
But that doesn't happen. Sometimes Tony talks. What's the word? Hey, thank you for that. Thank you for that sub. Much appreciated. Yo, Revo13. Appreciate you using that Amazon Prime sub to support the channel and join the club. Make sure to get access to those exclusive videos over on Discord. I feel like Tony sometimes talks outside of time. Because he's talking about like getting minerals out of the ground, and I'm like, dude, we haven't even talked about how that will work in terms of mining. I get that they were talking about persistent resources, but the specific application he's using to talk about them is off, right? And that bugs me, because you can't give an example that's that far out of reality. And I think since then they've gotten better at it. Like over the course of 2020, for sure they learned. In 2021 it got better, but it's just, you can't just say stuff like that.
It's easier for me to follow a miner to wherever he's going on the presumption that he's already found some valuable place than it is for me to go scan and do all of this analysis of the planet and find my own location, which might involve, who knows, eventually, hours and hours of work to find a really rich one. And so now you'll have people tagging along, following
driven by, oh yeah, this is a great place to mine resources, therefore I can make money. And I mean, it just all emerges, that gameplay emerges out of it, and then if it feeds into sort of the background universe simulation, that we're, the thing that you're working on, Tony, that we're running, that I just think I haven't seen a game like this, and it is literally like a second universe that you can just escape into. So
the answer doesn't even have to be stop talking. Just use more realistic examples. He's not lying. He's just embellishing a lot.
Obviously, our goal is to introduce
a new solar system.
Right?
Yeah, we're not going to be in Stanton forever. I think that was such an important thing to do at CitizenCon. It's been such a great evolution of just in scale, right? If you think about it, right?
Yeah, well, exactly, because like in that demo that we do, SOX is running. That's how it all works.
That's how it
works.
Yeah.
And as we enter the jump point and we're going through the wormhole, Stanton's going away while we're loading in Pyro.
Yeah.
And then we come out through jump hole and Pyro's there, and it's all seamless. There's no loading screens. There's no, there's no cutaway or anything. It just all happens from gameplay.
Still mind-boggling to me.
It was good training to start in probably one of like the 2 or 3 most of all the solar systems planned. One of the 2 or 3 most difficult in terms of 4 planets, 12 moons.
Four landing zones.
It's the landing zones. Yeah,
it's the landing zones.
But if we'd started,
Pyro's a lot lighter weight.
Well, the point I'm making is it's forced us to basically deal with a lot of the most complicated problems sooner in the process, so that going forward now, we've got a solid foundation to deal with, any quantity of content, decoupling, the frame rate from necessarily, how much stuff needs to be loaded by any given server and things.
And also the Planet Tech V4 is allowing them to, Pyro, I think has
6 or 7 planets.
6 or 7 planets.
And then a lot of moons.
I think we're only going to have a couple of landing zones, but it's not, it doesn't have the population density of Stanton, but there's...
I think just 1 landing zone. They have been more quiet about game mechanics these last 2 years. They've been much more focused on the immediate future, which obviously means they have less time to think about. Like they're not introducing us to game mechanics over the next 4 years. Instead, they're just introducing us to game mechanics over the next 1 year. So they've definitely not talked as much about them, which I think helps them. but they're gonna have to start again next year, I think, because we're starting to see the reintroduction of game mechanics and professions now that some of the bigger ticket items are wrapping up, and the whole my favorite phase 4 idea, it has been pretty strong now. We're in the midst of it. I think they're going to start to speed back up with that stuff again.
Outpost or a hut, or deploy some defenses, or place that there, go back, come back, and my home's still there as long as someone else.
Right, and it's not just, to be clear, it's not just a you thing. It's like, well, if you build that homestead in the middle of nowhere and someone happens to stumble upon it, then they can interact with it, they can raise it to the ground, they can customize it, they can have them and their friends move in. It's like, you don't really know what the state's.
Oh, I'm not just seeing the talk versus time with Tony. I realized that quite a few years ago when he was talking about quantum stuff.
When you leave things out in these public places.
It's completely emergent behavior that's kind of like what you would see in the real world, really.
These are all actually very simple things to leverage this, long-term persistent functionality.
Yeah, and it sounds so simple, but the emergence of it is incredible.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it, but that's what we do so often, which is we build in the low level, the fundamental mechanics, and then you get all of this complex functionality just naturally results.
I think the key is our planets are fully realized every single square inch.
I'm actually, believe it or not a huge fan of listening to Tony talk. I still haven't listened to the systemic, I think it's called Systemic Gameplay panel from last year's CitizenCon. I still haven't watched that all the way through. I can't get through it. I love the dude. I love his ideas. And for the most part, I'll listen to a lot of it. But this stuff that he says when he's talking about the game, I feel gets me far outside of what I should be expecting from the game. And sometimes it feels too kind of just easy to say, to the point where it's like, okay, did you actually think about that being a possibility or not? And not saying anybody else needs to feel that way, but that's how I feel when I listen.
Is realized on them. There's a vast amount of real estate, and it's great. I mean, we're going to be working hard, and we build tools to populate this stuff and put outposts. But if the players themselves,
Mrs. Tomato, thanks for fixing the alert noise.
Creating outposts or base, then this whole world becomes alive and breathing. And speaking of the resources and the collecting, so one thing we didn't really mention in persistence, but that's a stage that's slightly different than the sort of iCache persistence we've talked about, is persistence of resources on moons and planets, right?
And in fact, I think our team is doing it this quarter.
For 3.9.
For 4.3.9.
Yeah,
that's
so
3.9.
3.9. Yeah.
So the cool thing with that, right, is that now there's just always that whatever the mineral is there, but with the persistence, absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone.
See, what? Why are they saying that? There are no mineral veins in the game at that time. This is why you're right. This is why they stopped doing these. The open development thing is like, be open, but don't go in front of a microphone. Like, type everything so you have time to think about it, because these things aren't true. There are no mineral veins in the game. Not back then. There weren't any plans for them back then. I don't know. I'm not a Tony Z hater. Just because I don't like to listen to him talk doesn't mean I'm a hater. I just made a video about him on the YouTube channel like 3 weeks ago where I talked about the amazing economy they're working on. I just have my doubts and my hesitancies, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this game. I love it. I adore what they're doing with this, but like I'm going to try and continue to be realistic, especially as I've started to reach more and more people. I feel like I need to temper my expectations and other people's, because while there's a ton of really, really bad misinformation about how bad this game might be, there's also a lot of room to let your expectations run out of control. So we have a little bit of a responsibility to try and manage that, I think.
Now there's just always that whatever the mineral is there, but with the persistence.
Yeah, this is 2020.
Absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone if players are there and they've already mined it out.
And this goes back to, again, it's one of the things I find most.
Again, I'm not saying they can't bounce ideas, but did you hear what they said? They said in 3.9, we will have persistent resource mining veins.
I think it's like, and eventually, like right now,
like,
this goes.
I'm not saying they can't bounce
whatever
ideas.
The mineral is there, but with the persistence, absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone if players are there and they've already mined it out.
And then
is that whatever the mineral is there, but is that, now there's just always that whatever the mineral is there, but with the persistence, absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone if players are there and they've already mined it out.
And this goes.
I mean, maybe you could. He didn't specify that was going to be in 3.9, but I think like they have some responsibility on this to not have the 3.9 up, the 3.9 thing here saying March 2020, and then immediately
the cool
going
thing
into
with
the
that,
conversation
right, is
about
that,
it.
Now there's just always that whatever the mineral is there, but with the persistence, absolutely, if there's like a really strong vein of stuff there, it will be gone.
Right, Kita. So like, if it's going to be a vein at some point, that's what I'm saying. Say that. Tell us that. This is the problem with their communication. They don't tell us the things when we need to be told them, and so we just dwell on them, and they get out of control. I just, it's not crime. It's not something horrible, but I think this is part of the reason that they're not doing this as much, because they end up saying things that are not easy to clarify on right there in the moment, and then those things are saved and they end up kind of blowing up on their face a bit.
If players are there and they've already mined it out.
And this goes back to, again, it's one of the things I find most interesting. Yes, it's discovery. It's actually finding.
And that's exploration and scanning.
That's
and
exactly
else.
it. And eventually, like right now, we're still very limited. You basically fly over the surface of a planet and you happen to like come upon stuff. It's like eventually we want to be able to like do more analytical, a more detailed analysis of a planet so that you can find these things. But it's time consuming, it's labor intensive, requires equipment.
It's here.
That's exactly it.
Because a lot of times you find the rocks and you're like, I don't know which one it is.
Not only is it,
or I don't remember.
Not only is it here, but it's.
I wish I could let them dream, but we're the ones that get a lot of talk to us after these things don't happen, like over and over and over. Not to be like, oh, woe is me, you're causing me trouble, but like they also get shit talked for this stuff, and I want them to be able to have fun with this and theory craft about this, but as the head of the company on camera on an official channel that's giving an update about the game looking into 2020, it's not a great look when they're talking about things that are 3, 4, 5 years out and not specifically specifying in the moment that it is. It's just not a good look.
It's most of these things, accepting things like plant growth that regrow and things like that. But when you're talking about metals and minerals and things like that, there are a fixed quantity of those within the ground in a given area, and that's what we're looking to deliver for 3.9. So that there is this much gold in this particular area, and if you happen to extract it, over the course of a day or 2 or 3 days, whatever, it's like there will gradually become less and less and less, and then you need to go out and find a new location, and this is where it starts getting interesting to where.
Conflict over the
That's
locations,
exactly
right?
it.
So,
And it's easier for me to follow a miner to wherever he's going on the presumption that he's already found some some valuable place than it is for me to go scan and do all of this analysis of the planet and find my own location, which might involve who knows eventually hours and hours of work to find a.
We don't know all this though. Most of the people don't know this. We're in the minority of people who are keeping up with this game or hearing news about this game. Like, when people hear about bed sheets, most of the people who hear about it from our group know what's going on with bed sheets. We know it's not a big deal, but like, look at all the different things that come out about it. Again, not a major problem. This is just stuff that comes up that I think they should be more careful about saying. I don't want to cancel them. I don't want them to lose their job. I don't think that they're the worst. I don't think they're bad. I'm just saying the way that I feel about it and why I would like to bring more clarity to that kind of stuff.
Really rich one, and so now you'll have people tagging along, following
driven by, oh yeah, this is a great place to mine resources, therefore I can make money, and I mean it just all emerges. That gameplay emerges out of it, and then if it feeds into sort of the background universe simulation that we're, the thing that you're working on, Tony, that we're running, that I just think I haven't seen a game like this, and it is literally like a second universe that you can just escape into. So, so that's persistence. I mean, we touched on a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Bed sheets.
So let's have a talk
bed
about,
sheets.
Obviously, our goal is to introduce
A new solar system.
a new solar system, right?
Yeah, we're not going to be in Stanton forever. I think that's the.
I lost like 50 viewers just now when I started talking about how they shouldn't talk like that.
That was such an important thing to do at CitizenCon. It's been such a great evolution of just in scale, right? If you think about it, right?
Yeah, well, exactly,
And
because like in that demo that we do, SOX is running. That's how it all works.
That's how it
and,
works. Yeah.
As we enter the jump point and we're going through the wormhole, Stanton's going away while we're loading in Pyro.
Yeah.
And then we come out through jump hole and Pyro's there, and it's all seamless. There's no loading screens. There's no, there's no cutaway or anything. It just all happens from gameplay.
Still
straight
mind-boggling to me.
It was good training to start in probably one of like the 2 or 3 most of all the solar systems planned. One of the 2 or 3 most difficult in terms of 4 planets, a dozen moons.
4 landing zones.
It's the landing zones. Yeah,
it's the landing zones.
But if we'd started,
Pyro's a lot lighter weight.
Well, the point I'm making is it's forced us to basically deal with a lot of the most complicated problems sooner in the process, so that going forward now, we've got a solid foundation to deal with, any quantity of content, decoupling, the frame rate from necessarily, how much stuff needs to be loaded by any given server and things.
And also the Planet Tech V4 is allowing them to, Pyro, I think has
6 or 7 planets.
6 or 7 planets. There.
I don't think it was reprioritization in this case. This video was uploaded February 20th, and the update came out the next month. They didn't reprioritize anything. It just wasn't in the patch. Somebody was saying something about, no, I missed it.
They're not,
and then a lot of moons.
They're not, I think we're only going to have a couple of landing zones, but it's not, it doesn't have the population density of Stanton, but there's a lot of places you can visit.
Oh yeah, that's right. What they're talking about here is pretty cool. So most people probably know this, but the Stanton system was picked, as they're saying, because it was like super dense with a bunch of content. And so we were lucky enough that with ArcCorp in Lorville, and actually with all 4 of the planets, we got a decent amount of architectural assets. So with those, I think there are 2 architectural styles in the system, utilitarian and high-tech. But with colonialism, that's the introduction of a 3rd. So with Pyro, Stanton, and all of the things inside of them, we actually get a lot of stuff that's going to be able to be spread to other systems, because like they figured out the city building tools, they figured out the space station tools, the cave tools, a lot of the NPC stuff, a lot of the branding stuff, things that they wouldn't have had to done if they started in like a smaller system. So it's cool that they started in the Stanton system. And yes, it took a long time. It took a long time to flush it out and all that stuff. But I think it helped them a lot more in the long run. Yeah, the gas clouds are good too.
We have the tools, and we'll probably be, Pyro is sort of a hotter system. So we're going to have, that's where the active status
comes in. Everything has been, I just feel like we're starting to really coalesce everything, right? And that's what that really excites me.
I feel you, Keita.
So let's talk a little bit about the jump point side of it.
The jump points are a way for us to introduce new things into that solar system, because again, Pyro or Stanton shouldn't have everything that it needs. It should be pulling in from other solar systems. So that introduces new things for the economy, and then obviously once in Stanton or Pyro, when we start opening other jump points, then that basically really starts messing with the economy, or it creates new opportunities for the players to run missions or do other aspects of gameplay that they find interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Dash, what do you mean by that question, if we find them as they are? What do you mean as they are?
These holes are longer lasting, some of them are shorter duration. There is a discovery element, so there are players that will devote good chunks of their time towards scanning, trying to find these things. When they find one, it's like, is this a shorter path, a longer path? Mapping it, as you said. The economic impact, what changes when all of a sudden, this incredibly long distance, all of a sudden for some period of time winds up becoming quite accessible. It's like it completely upends the economy. It changes everything for the duration of that thing. And these wind up becoming very valuable. All of a sudden, you're going to have to basically exert a lot of outwards pressure to maintain control of that thing.
Yeah.
What kind of new gameplay do we think we're going to be introducing?
Man, they do a lot of cutting in this. I didn't realize. You're fine, Keita. Don't worry about it. Just like a recolor of Area 52 or green. Oh, yeah, it won't be the exact same. Like, for instance, let's say, I'm trying to think of a good example of how they've used one thing in another place. They've used some of the art from, oh God, where did they use it? They pulled art from something for the derelict ships. I don't think it's going to be a recolor. So the way that the game architecture works, I think I got a picture for it I can pull up. The way that it works is that they have all these different styles, but they all correlate to different times in the verse. So like what we have right now is utilitarian, which you can see over here. It's not very high quality, sorry. And that was like the first stuff they did. It was really old. So they don't necessarily have to now create a new style. They can just build on utilitarian. For instance, the high-tech and super modernistic stuff looks pretty similar. Microtech and I think Orison are both in the high-tech category. Nothing isn't super modern that we've seen yet, but you can tell that like they're not that far off. So they don't actually have to create entirely new assets for this stuff. They just kind of have to change what they already have. And on top of that, as long as you can kit bash and mix and max different assets, I think the systems are still going to be pretty interesting. But this is only talking about the cities, right? The landing zones. This isn't talking about the caves or the rivers, the lava, the water, the oceans, the space stations, the clouds, all that kind of stuff. This is just talking about landing zones. So there's a lot more to these star systems than just that.
With Pyro, I mean, obviously it's a
lawless system. I mean, really.
Well, lawless, right?
That's the biggest issue.
That art style thing is from CitizenCon 2017, I think. This is CitizenCon. Oh no, this is 2019. CitizenCon 2019. I think it's called something about Hurston. Can't remember what exactly it is.
Which I see, which is when you're in that system, you should always feel more pressure. It should be more dangerous. You should be more anxious. You should always be more concerned.
890 might be super modern. I'm not sure.
In the previous discussion about the melee combat and stuff, it's like just going to get your ship may be an exercise in in concern.
There might be somebody sleeping in your bed.
Well, and I guess from my standpoint, I wanted it to feel almost like the Wild West, where I see you, and I don't know what you're going to do to me, and so am I going to take extra cautions? Am I going to shoot first, or are you going to shoot first? What are you going to do? And then that cat and mouse gameplay associated with it.
And then how about, sort of the other aspects of sort of, we've got, the resource.
I think to lure
whether
people
you're
into that.
extracting minerals and various that maybe you could get there that you can't get.
Yes.
That's the carrot, which is, so why would you go to this incredibly dangerous, lawless places? Like, well, there must be something. That's exactly it. It's the risk reward, which is that's where you can really make the big bucks. That's where you can make the killer return. There are some exotic materials in greater in greater quantity there than in other places. But you're going to have to be willing to get bruised in order to retrieve them.
And I think Pyro, we're not going to promise exactly what the release is, but it's going to be at some point next year. It won't be
He did it. He literally was like, we're not going to promise. And then he's like, well, it'll be next year. Bummer.
Maybe after that at some point. But,
He's trying, I can't imagine how hard he tries to not do a date at this point. And then the pandemic happened and everything got delayed on top of the already normal Star Citizen delays. And at that point, you just got to be like, you know what? It's just never going to happen. No dates ever again. And then he gave us the chairman's letter this year, but at least he was a little bit more reserved there.
It's a bit early to promise because we still have to make sure a few things are going. But for instance, if you're in a system like Pyro where there probably won't be a lot of stations that you can go and get fuel, you may want to be able to collect fuel yourself with your ship, or someone can make a good living by selling it to people.
Yeah, Roger.
One of the next occupations up will be, salvage, and I would expect it, any kind of lawless place, a lot of conflict. You'd have a lot of debris, a lot of derelict ships, a lot of stuff to salvage, a lot of value for people that basically want to, strip, whether it's the hull of a ship or the internal components and things of that sort.
Yeah, that's super cool. So speaking of that, we talked about lawless system, following jumping, basically jumping someone's resource area. So one thing that's definitely coming in 3.9 is prisons. So do you want to talk about that?
They briefly talked about salvage there, and it really makes me feel like this talk happened 2 years too early. Granted, they had delays that weren't expected at this time, but if this had come out in the beginning of this year, it feels so much more realistic. I guess it felt realistic back then, but like, you know what I mean? Like it would have worked for this year because we're getting all these things. Well, we're seeing all these things being developed. Mr. Evolve, thank you so much for that tier 1 sub. I appreciate you. Thanks for getting another raffle started for everybody. And make sure to take advantage of those videos on the Discord if you haven't already joined the server.
I'm actually quite excited
Discord.
by, kind of just really like this idea that, yeah, that's your penalty. You've got to do some time for being a bad person. So you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep iterating on the law system for another several quarters. The prisons are basically the next major step forward. We've added an automated prison to Aberdeen, and what it really does fundamentally.
Ian, I gotta say, I don't know what's better, the actual saxophone or the 5 subs. Thank you for gifting out those subs. You absolute legend. You've done so much this last week. I appreciate that support.
For you doing all of these illegal actions, it will make every player, that's engaging another player, just whether it's for the fun of it or to basically, pick on their, take their resources, steal their ship, whatever. It's like now there's this whole prison thing. You don't get your ship. You're gonna be stuck in there for a longer period of time. You have the potential to escape. You have the potential to reduce your sentence. But in general, the penalty is much more substantial than us simply allowing you to, to restart.
So, my big objective with the game is to not have people basically respawn. You want to keep your ship as long as possible. You want to keep alive as long as possible.
I want the cybernetics.
I want the cybernetics. I want to crash land on a planet, and it's better. It's better for me to have my friend rescue or get rescued.
Let me go
than
cyberpunk,
for me to basically
please.
commit suicide and wake up. So yeah, I think that's super great.
I want to get my Deus Ex on in this game. It feels like they're really slowly rebuilding the Deus Ex feel in this game, and I want more.
Systems, and a lot of that depends on the sort of social and group gameplay.
Well, and that ties into our front end. Basically, even our launcher and Spectrum associated with it. There's how you group with people. There's a lobby associated with it. There's the front end option menu. All that stuff we know needs to work, and that has been a focus of kind of us in talking about how we can update the lobby and update grouping with people, just because we know it is a pain.
This came out in 2020.
It's basically, we talked about it before. Yeah. We basically have 3 different areas of friends at this moment that have different management sort of techniques. You've got Spectrum.
And it's also I have to reach out to you, and then you have to reach out to me.
back to you, and it's all case sensitive. So if I typo and I don't have a cert, there are all sorts of different layers of usability to there. And really, in the end, what it's got to be, and and we mentioned front end definitely, but it goes all the way. It's really from our website all the way down into the game, and you're playing with your buddy.
You mentioned one thing earlier on the server object container streaming to where if...
Another thing that really needs to be improved, the ability to play with your buddy. I feel like part of the reason it's so hard to run org operations or large events in this game is because it's so hard to get all of those people in the same place. Even if you all know each other and you're all in the same organization in the game, you still have to add one person on your friends list that sends out all the invites to everybody. Nobody else can send out invites. Sometimes the party launch doesn't work. You can't organize it from the website. It's awful. And that's yet another part of the new player experience that we could really use. But I would love to see some improvements to the player management system, parties and stuff like that.
The tools basically make it too difficult to achieve a desired result, then people have a tendency to basically, to do less of that. And that's very much been the case, which is a lot of what we're talking about here requires significant...
Yeah, Turbulent team needs to help.
Work. And we've done this over on my side. The service beacon still doesn't have features that we wanted in, from version 1, because every bit of that UI work is so expensive, and you're always weighing it against what else I could get with that amount of time. And so with the new, building block stuff that, we've had coming online recently, that aspect of it should become dramatically faster.
Yeah, that's the tech thing. We've been investing in the sort of UI tech, which we've done some ATV episodes on. It's still got some stuff to happen, but it's becoming easier. That hopefully is something that will pay off in us being able to expand things like, the group system and front end and during the game, and just getting into the, your Moby Glass and
Keep in mind, folks, whenever I throw out a criticism, I'm not saying it's a universal criticism, but improving it would make it much better for players. I just want it to be easier for people. It's tough and it's a sticking point and it hurts the process.
Getting the Galactopedia or
What's
all
up,
that
Greek
sort
one?
of stuff.
It's about empowering the teams too, because before we used to have a very much a bottleneck with the UI team, but now every single team, is getting used to using the building blocks, and then it's just making sure that we have the oversight, so we have the cohesive nature of the UI experience and the UX experience. But groups and lobby and all of that is definitely on all of our radars and is very important to us, just because when we play the game, we have to go through the same headaches. The same headaches.
Todd, what's your username?
Well, and also, I know, like for Sean, which we should talk about, because at CitizenCon he showed the very first illustration of Theaters of War, right?
Uh-oh.
So
Uh-oh,
that's
they said
actually
it.
one of the
We've
big
used-
use cases, Arena Commander
They
Theaters
said
of
it.
War, which is like,
Exactly.
how is everyone going to get together to play the game, lobby up? So do you want to just tell it? I mean, because Theaters of War is pretty cool.
Chase, you're good. You're good. Anybody who got an email saying they were kicked, RSI didn't do this well. So we reset our organization because we had to log it into our back end of our website. In order to do this, we had to remove everyone from the RSI side. Now, you can put a message out there that says, hey, this is why you're getting this message. Don't worry about it. The problem is that CIG sends out an email to all the members who say, it just says, you have been removed from this organization. It doesn't say anything like, please read this message for organization comms or something like that. We did not kick anybody from the org. Don't believe anybody who said we did. We're not on a crusade. We're not trying to get anybody out. Everybody is free to join our organization. We just had to restart it so that everybody could go in, go to our website, and just hit this join button that takes care of the entire process rather than having to go through RSI. It's actually really nice because you can come in here. Oh, don't share my Discord with everybody, please. That's what I call sharing my Discord with everyone. Stop it. Stop doxing me. So you can actually go in here and like see your whole profile, see all of the things that you specialize in, see all of the roles that you carry, see your rank. It's a pretty cool setup, but we had to do it to relaunch the org. Sorry to do that in the middle of this thing, but people have been saying they felt like they were kicked out of the org, and I don't want anyone to feel like that.
And
we've
I'll segue
still got a
there.
lot of plans for it, but
Absolutely. I mean, it's a real nice segue to go from the group stuff, because the group friend system and everything all ties into, things like leaderboards and matchmaking and all those. And it all has to be kind of dealt with, not as one, but in a sort of holistic way that we see top down a very, very good vision of that. So we showed Theaters of War, and again, this was, it's a 40-man map because we had a lot of vehicles on it, and we wanted to bring it to CitizenCon and see what the players liked. And one last piece of it was there's a huge breadth of lore that we have in Star Citizen, and you hear all these stories about Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy, and because we have this simulation aspect of Star Citizen, I always thought it was really interesting to be able to do like a Gettysburg reenactment or something that you were actually experiencing with, in the flesh, in a simulation kind of environment, but within the Star Citizen universe. So we can.
It wasn't on Discord. That was a website that we've created for the org.
Interesting. We have a huge breadth of lore. And again, the one that we showed within CitizenCon was called The Crossroads of Crime. So it told the story of the Nexus system and how the Nexus system was strip mined. None of the resources existed anymore. They had a company come in, the Hathor group in this particular case. They bought up the entire thing, strip mined the whole thing out. And then as they pulled out, there was zero police force. There was no security. So it became a haven for all the criminals, within the verse. And at some point, anybody that was up to no good was going to be crossing through this system. In this particular scenario, the UEE advocacy is trying to come in, and the first planet that they tried to take back was Nexus 3. So this is them going into Nexus 3, and they meet up against one of the more notorious outlaw games called the Supreme. You can imagine how these guys will react when somebody's trying to take it back. Not only are they going to be hyper-aggressive, but I mean in the sense that they're not going to let them take anything back. So they try to take out the entire planet as they're getting pushed back with mining lasers and just kind of destroy what's left there if you're going to come take it. So this is a 30-minute adrenaline-packed, guaranteed combat scenario.
Oh, hey, I just realized we passed that sub goal, so I'm going to go ahead and pop a code out for y'all. Is this it? Yeah, cool. So this code right here, go to the giveaway page that I have, go to the secret codes area, and because you all are here for this amazing achievement, thank you so much for the subs today and for getting us to our goal. Go ahead and put this in. You'll get a couple more points into the giveaway for that 400i. If you don't know where that is or don't have the link, just type in !giveaways into the chat. I'm sure somebody will, or a couple dozen people will, and click one of the links that pop up.
That's just in your face.
So I think it's cool. I mean, the thing I would also say is that, like, why, you know, like Theaters of War, we went for a certain style.
Yeah.
Why is Theaters of War
Our
unique?
technology is what makes us able to do things that are unique. So the reason it's called Theaters of War, and one of the big parts about it, is that we transition phases within this level, and the combat changes dramatically, and we balance it very, very differently. So a great example in Crossroads of Crime is phase 1 is a compound. You have to take out anti-air. So you're the advocacy coming in, you have to take out these anti-air turrets, because you can't bring any of your ships in when those anti-air are active by the Supreme. Once you've taken that out, our next phase is about a 4-kilometer run where the defenders have brought their ships in. The advocacy is starting to bring some of their ships in, but there's a moving combat, and it's very dynamic. So this is what most games can't do. They can't go to the scale that we've gone because we have this tech.
Talvarin and Chase, thank you both for subbing with your Amazon Prime to support the channel. I appreciate you. Getting another raffle started for everybody to get some points. Thank you guys.
There's no loading, there's no top, there's no little fakey cutscene or anything.
So you're not
like
on a
that.
limited map, it's huge, you can go anywhere, you go from,
and
you go to
you go.
orbit, you've been down on the ground.
Exactly, and we could play it from orbit all the way down if we wanted. We could play it upwards.
Which is basically the thing that Star Citizen has, is that level of both the detail, like the, you know, the fidelity.
If you can't find the link to the giveaway, it's being posted in the chat, but if you can't find it, just go to spacetomatogaming.com, and there is a giveaways page that you can access there.
Of that first-person FPS, but scaling all the way up to
all the way.
space.
And like, this was just to be fair, this is still a really small example, because you could take this, again, Star Citizen's it's just not a typical game. It's not just levels. Like, we're talking, you know, these sort of scenarios can happen over the span of a solar system, over the span of multiple solar systems. I mean, if you want to put the enemy base on the other side
Tony
of the
is
solar
like,
system,
he
go
sounds
ahead.
like me.
I mean, this is...
Just be a long QT.
It's just be a bit of a long QT, and a little bit less
so last thing on
combat, but
Theaters, last thing on Theaters War, because that's all super cool, and hopefully people, you know, we'll be it'll be coming out this year. It's not necessarily coming out with obviously 3.8, but it'll be coming out this year.
Don't say that.
What's the, from what people saw at CitizenCon? What are the where are you taking it from there? What are the changes? What are the improvements that before it goes live?
Yeah, and you know, we built this very much in a way that fun came first. That was really, really important, that we would find the fun. So we spent, you know, a good amount of time on that. So now let's make it look awesome, and let's make the experience really fun. So a great example at CitizenCon, when you take out that space station, I mean, I want something incredible to happen. I want to disintegrate the thing. I want it, when you're taking out one of you have to destroy some engines to it. It starts falling to the planet and things like this. So I want to add a bit of the track views and the effects that we need to add to it. Kind of the exciting visual polish.
And then I think,
to be fair, it's kind of the fun stuff.
And I think you used, because of the timing, we didn't want to risk Theaters of War, so it uses
that's a big update that
Tech 3, which I used to think looked great, but now I'm looking at the Tech 4, I'm like,
yeah, that's
so that we're going to move it
that's
to
another big one that we got to update to V4.
Right?
Absolutely. And then again, we're going to try little things within the map. We're going to keep iterating on it. So it's just a bit of polish now that's got to get on it. Some art and polish, update to V4.
Great.
And that'll be it.
Okay, well, great. All right, so there you go, folks. That's a fairly in-depth discussion of what's coming up this year, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. The code goes onto the giveaway page, folks. If you haven't found it, just go to the giveaway page. You can put the code in there. You said that your entries have not been tracked. Sorry, music. And we're gonna jump over to the roadmap real quick to talk a little bit about some stuff. Just give me 1 second. Java update. Your entries are not being tracked. Let me search for Java update. I don't see any of your actions. That's weird that they're not being tracked though. Try redoing them a couple times. They might work then. Can't find which code we were supposed to put in it. It's right here, right below my camera. Status on Planet V4. Oh, Planet V4 is long done. Planet Tech V4 was back in December of 2019. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that they talked about there is stuff we still don't have. And that was the nature of Pillar Talks. They were good in that they touched on the pillars of the game. They were not great in that they brought out conversations that unfortunately were wide-ranging in time. Not necessarily a problem. It just obviously confused people a little bit. Oh, somebody just sub. Death wish to thank you for the sub, and Makwas. Mac was here. I appreciate you both. Why are we getting double notifications? That's weird. Thank you all for these Amazon Prime subs. These are huge. Y'all are... Would we just get a hype train started? Oh man, we haven't had a hype train in like at least, I don't know, months? Thank you. Much appreciated. And I'm getting actually doubled up notifications, I'm realizing. Not sure where that's coming from. You guys have treated me today though. Thank you. Yeah, I get your name confused every time. First I say Makwas and then I'm like, oh wait, no. Makwas. It's Cyberpunk. Oh my gosh! Yo! 5 gifted subs, Raven Queen. Soap Man following up with an Amazon Prime sub. What is going on? Who's playing joke on me? You guys are crazy. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad y'all liked the Pillar Talk reviews. Maybe we should watch Pillar Talks more often. Thank you though. Seriously. Tons of hype in the chat. Can I get hype in chat, please? I want to see the bot freak out. But yeah, that was the, Pink Floyd. 100 bits, thank you. And Randy with 500 bits. Yo, this is wild. Twitch is going off. Twitch is going ham. I love it. Thank you so much. But that was, how many Pillar Talks was that? That was the 3.8, 3.9, and 2020 Pillar Talk. I would, you know what? What time is it? We got time. Let's do the staggered development Pillar Talk. Let's see what they talk about here. I'm sure this is going to be a lot of fun. You signed up on the giveaway on your phone and it didn't transfer into, you signed up on the PC and it didn't transfer to the phone. As long as it verified you, it should put those entries into the contest for you. Not me, mister. You, mister. Thank you so much for gifting out a community gift sub. You submitted your entry and got a pop-up message saying, congrats, as the future Supreme Overlord of the Fruitopia, you have automatically won. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, Fruit Loop. I'll send you over your winnings shortly. Right after this. Everybody on Twitch, make sure to get in on that raffle that's starting. Thankfully, thanks to Not Me Mister with their gifted sub. And let's see what they had to say about staggered development back in August 2019. Noobifier basically summed it up. Didn't really tell us anything we didn't already know. Content is bad. Okay, wait, hold on. Was this this was that video that got really, really badly disliked, huh? Nobody liked this. That's not gonna even be worth watching, I think. Instead, how about we watch the Around the Verse Pillar Talk? See what they have to say about it. Chris and Sandy. Code has been given. It's right here down below the camera.
Some stories are worth watching.
Ah, Hazgaha.
Every journey has its beginning.
Are y'all gonna copyright me for this?
Whether it's a quick stop for some fuel and snacks, or out beyond that asteroid belt. Wherever you go, you'll find moments to stare.
What a great trailer. This is fantastic.
Beautiful.
See you later, Jaybird.
Efficient. Just enough teeth, get you through a scrape. let me introduce to you Consolidated Outland's newly redesigned 2948 Mustang Beta. More than a ship, a partner. Consolidated Outland, where risk meets reward.
Just so everybody is clear who might not have known, that whole thing from the music to the voiceover to the actual camera shots was made completely, I won't say from scratch since they recorded it in the game, but like that was original music, original voiceover, all in-game shots by the good folks at Arts and Crafts. Make sure to check them out. They have a great YouTube channel led by Mr. Hazgaha, and they always doing some cool stuff. I haven't seen anything from them in a little while, but they usually do trailers for some of the events in the game.
We just saw the winning entry in our recent Consolidated Outland Mustang commercial contest. Congratulations to the crew that made that pretty impressive ad.
Yeah, it was very impressive. There were some familiar names in the credits there, like Mr. Haskar. But you know what? Like the entries were actually really impressive. So I would definitely recommend
check them out.
Not just checking out the winning one, but the runners-up and the other entries too. There's a thread that has them all in.
All right, I'm just going to jump us forward a little bit to the content.
That's always much better. So Alpha 3.3 is going live tomorrow.
3.3.
And 3.35
Whoa.
with Hurston and Lawville part of it is coming to the PTU in short order as soon as we go live.
This is a jump back in time.
3.3 out live to people before we could move the next sort of release into the PTU phase. So that's a really important step.
Just turned it up.
And people will be able to play, a nice stable 3.3, but also have explore Hurston, even if they're willing to put up with a few crashes in the PTU. And that all gets us closer to next thing up the list.
Well, that doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's a little later than we wanted to be, but it's a lot of content. And the most important thing is the object-containing streaming technology is now stable enough for us to go live, and that's a big, big thing. So we've been working on that for well over a year. And it's the sort of tech pillar that's going to allow us to scale the rest of the world on the client side. And then on the technology side, we're really happy because that's sort of passing a pretty big goalpost that we need to get past. It's taken us obviously longer than we thought, and it's been a bit more complicated and difficult than we thought, but that is the case with that sort of R&D that you have to do, and there's so many issues that go into it.
For what it's worth, that was an amazing patch when they brought in client-side object container streaming. Huge boost in performance.
Bad news, then.
Okay, well, the bad news is some things are going to move out of 3.4 into 3.5. I mean, I think people understand or
yeah, that's right,
aware of the
Efren.
fact that 3.3 has been running late, so it's been putting a lot of pressure on 3.4, and the biggest knock-on, and this is probably not particularly apparent to people, is the fact that each one of our releases, when we make a 3.3 or a 3.2, comes from game dev, which is our main development stream. And so it tends to be both a combination of slightly unstable and also full of a whole bunch of content that you're not ready or you don't want to put in the current release. Instead of excluding things, because we've got so many things, we include things and say, okay, we want these things in this release. And so it takes a lot of time, anywhere from, I think we've never done it shorter than 2 weeks, but it's more usually like 4 weeks, because we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of files. Game dev itself is almost 2 terabytes of just the data set of game dev itself. And that's not just the archive stuff, that is like the actual working set. So most people actually only have a small portion of it, depending on what area they're working on. So we have to make sure that the right ones are going across, and there's only the stuff that you need for 3.3, which then also takes time to stabilize. So if we go back, after we get 3.3, back to game dev, and then try to stabilize it, and then also test it and get it out, everybody on the development side, and this was something that came up just this week, essentially have said it's going to put us in risk of releasing 3.4 by the end of this year. So we still want to be date-driven when we can, when we're not waiting for some tech pillar. And so we made the hard decision to basically stay in the 3.3 branch, which will become 3.4 once 3.3 and 3.3.5 is out, and then move the bits of content and functionality across that we can easily from game dev. That means that we can't move everything that we were planning to have for 3.4, and some stuff is a bit of a bridge too far, so we're going to lose some.
So what are these things that are being pushed out?
Okay. Well, I was just saying that, so some of the things we can move from game dev, and some of the things we can't. Now we're going to have the Hurston Business District in 3.4, so we're making sure that's going to be in and polished.
If some of the newer folks to the game can't tell, the whole how is this patch going to turn out, what's actually going to be in this patch thing, not a new phenomenon, as you can see.
We're going to do a lot more work and improvements on the FOIP and the VoIP stuff. The other ships that we had scheduled for coming in for 3.4 will be in 3.4 as well, because it's much easier to bring a ship or a weapon or an item or a gun across. But you'll know in the roadmap that's going to be updated tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll definitely lose the ability to drag everything around in inventories. It's going to be a while before that happens, I think, but yeah.
Massive amount of stuff.
But why is it so hard for me to get my female character that I want?
It's
yeah,
not
Chris.
Just the fact that there's thousands of animations have to be done. I mean, we have the same issues that you do in the real world, where like in your car seat.
It's official. Came straight from Chris's mouth. Women take more animations.
Adjust your seat to you got different length arms and different legs, and the female skeleton.
That's not actually what he's saying.
5'8", and the male skeleton is 6 foot. So we have to have solutions for the female getting into cockpits and not having that hands hyperextended. Or
Profeta. Thank you for the sub, buddy. Much appreciated. 5 months on. Solid.
Those are another issue. So there's a huge amount. It touches a massive amount of departments, and it's a lot of work. And people have been working on it for quite a while, so it's not something that we just started. It just is in game dev and not in a position to bring it into the 3.3 stream. The other one is ArcCorp. ArcCorp has a whole bunch of Planet improvements that have happened in game dev. We have some shader work we've done for the new city stuff that's sitting in game dev, so we can't get that across, which kind of stops it, and LODs for the cities and stuff, so we can't bring that across. And also, it's just ArcCorp's big, and we want to take the time to do it right. And that's okay because ArcCorp itself probably, we've been compressed by how long 3.3's taken, so it'd be nice to really make sure that's well. But those are the two sort of big headline ones. On a ship basis, we're in pretty good shape on all the ships, except the 300 series is sort of run up right against the end of the year, and that's not including things like the LODs and the setups for the damage states and stuff like that, and the variants. So we sort of made the decision to move that out to 3.5 to give them time to finish all that up properly. But those are the sort of big headline ones that have moved out.
But making this decision, why now? Like, why am I hearing about it now? Why do you make these decisions? It seems late, is what it feels
Chris,
to me,
it's late.
Well, yeah, I mean, this came. We had, we do our Monday morning leadership meetings, and in the most recent meeting, basically production came back, crunched the numbers, and said, look, if we go from game dev into 3.4. Based on, if we come into the worst case scenario and it takes us forward.
Yeah, the clothes and the hair are so lacking. It's not super important, but like we've known about the hair engine, hair tool rework that they've wanted to do for a long time. I would love to see something on that sometime soon. I really was thinking that they would have that with the character updater earlier this year. I was kind of surprised when they they showed us the updates to the character creator and then just didn't say anything about hair.
Weeks to stabilize that. We're going to have no time to get testing and PTU and Evocati and be out for December 20th. So basically, everyone came back on the development side and said, look, if we do this, we'll be in grave risk of missing a 3.4 release at the end of the year on December 20th.
Right.
So
it's either no 3.4 for me or 3.4 light.
Yes.
I love finding these things out.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one. But we're a big company and there's a lot of things going on. We have better tools now to look at how long it takes us
Reese,
to trajectories and make.
Good to see you, dude. Been a little while. I didn't see you at the Streamathon, my man.
Like, for instance,
we had a freaking ton of fun. We were running some Siege of Orson.
My bad news?
Well, I don't know if there's a silver lining other than, we're working on all these things, right? So, we try to share everything as it happens live. So really the proper answer
I want long hair.
Like, why is it so late is because you're basically letting out it within a week of us deciding that and coming to that realization. It's not something we've been sitting on for months. We were hoping and projecting to get 3.3 stable and out weeks ago, and we haven't. It's taken a little time, but it's worth it because 3.3, and this is one of the reasons why we sort of deviated slightly from the date-driven model, because object container streaming is foundational tech. It's a major pillar to be able to, for us to be able to have worlds with the detail and fidelity we want on a sort of universal scale.
No problem,
You have
mate.
to get that working, or else you just won't be able to load all this extra content in, whether it's ArcCorp or Microtech or another star system, and you also won't be able to have it perform well if everything has to be loaded into memory. So people have definitely been seeing an improvement in performance because of object container streaming and bind culling, which are two critical parts to make it work. And once we have it done, and we're almost there, we're like just about ready to, we're at the
And see you later. Thank you so much for all the modding you did today. Amazing job. Have a good day, my friend.
Well, our goal is with game dev is that we're going to quarantine it, and we're going to have some downstream development streams that people do their feature development in. And so what will happen if that's the case is they'll develop a feature in the feature stream, and then once it's done, it will get reviewed. And then once we say, okay, this looks good, it will go through what's called a QATR, which is a QA test request, and we'll get fully tested. And then we decide, okay, is it stable? Does it work well? Does it hurt performance? And if it doesn't, but if it is stable and doesn't hurt performance and it all works well, then it gets put into game dev. So we're only going to put things into game dev that are like working and have been tested and have been polished, which will mean the game dev itself will be a lot more stable, and therefore it'll have several benefits. One, people like artists who are always at the mercy of someone putting something unstable in game dev and crashing the editor. The next they get the editor tool and they want to like build an environment, it crashes because someone's got some other feature that's broken now. To be able to test these streams and have all these multiple, whether it's a release stream and a game development stream and a feature stream, and there's multiple feature streams, the build system has to be able to handle all those streams and deal it, and what we call copy builds, our internal tool that you download, whatever build you want to do has to be able to take that.
This is the short answer, folks.
So
I'm
anyway,
like,
it's
dude.
a lot of work. Everyone's been working on the DevOps side and the tool side on this for over a year, and that's our goal, and we're planning to have this rolling out in the beginning of next year.
So we're still working on all this stuff then?
Yes, we are most definitely working on all the stuff. Some other things that are in game dev, like the cloud tech, which we're extremely excited by. And we're actually doing some really cool stuff with it, so I think we actually have a little piece to show about that.
Cool. Here's Jake Matthews.
Oh yeah, Chris just lives down the street from me. I'll send him your
And
request.
Jake Gainey to show us the current state of the cloud generation tool and its variable uses.
Physicalized
So this new
lockers
volumetric
in
tool that I've been
Squadron
working
when you
on.
change your clothes coming in the cargo refactor. No, I don't think so. There's another thing on the progress tracker for lockers and things like that.
For not too long now, and it's still in very early development. But the main focus of the tool is to help artists create volumetric clouds and gas clouds in much faster iterations than we have been in the past. So we can see here is a nice, relatively simple shape, and at this stage, we just want the silhouette of the clouds. So we look at the borders here.
Is this
our
Houdini?
body,
Does anybody
what we're gonna
recognize
start
it?
with. And by adding more geometry to it, with using the tool, doing this for you procedurally and automatically. We've gone from a really simple shape of the cloud into a much more traditional cloud that you would see with these nice soft edges here. This is the key thing that we've really been lacking in the past, and from there you can iterate on it really quickly, really fast, and now we're cutting down development from weeks and months to days and weeks. So moving on from there, we're now moving on to the L system, or lines and splines. So we created this
It doesn't say anything up top about the program they're using. It just says render assets Windows help CIG tools.
tool to help artists create the more organic look within the coil. We do that by using curl noise wrapped around using the initial spline that you saw before to really add all these really intricate patterns and lines that just wasn't there, and something it's this iteration that really helps drive development. From that simple spline that we saw, turning into something more intricate and more detailed.
This is Houdini. So the recent tool that they created, what's it called? Mighty Bridge, was meant to allow this to function inside of their own game engine or something like that, so that this process didn't have to happen separate from the rest of the game, which is pretty cool.
Such as this.
But yeah, I love the gas clouds. They're amazing.
Here, we can see all these gaps within the clouds. We can see all of the fluffiness, and it's not really something that was done. If we look at the clouds now, it's got really hard edges, and it's no longer a cloud. It's just geometry turned into volumes. So as we can see from the demo, the tool is really quick at creating volumetrics with a lot of detail that just weren't able to in the past. And because it's so easy, designers can now show artists what they were talking about and what they envision, rather than telling artists what they're thinking. We're hoping that as development continues, we can take this tool into Max and Myers to allow artists to actually work in their native programs, rather than having to learn a whole new set of programs just to work on one new scene.
So I'm just going to take you through how we normally approach setting up a space scene in the game. In Squadron 42, we've got various spacescapes to make. One challenge that we have is trying to create interest within space scenes. As you can see from this is just a derelict location in the middle of space, and it's okay, but it's
what's a
what you've really
jellyfish?
got
Good
is
catch.
Derelict plus the starfield. So we use technology called gas cloud, which uses volumetric PDB to create interest within those spaces. I'll just drop one of those into the engine and take you through how I would normally set up and approach one of these space scenes in the game. So this is our volumetric entity, which is called a gas cloud VDB. And I'm just going to drop one of the stock kind of volumes that the VFX team have made in their tool into the scene, and kind of put this in place. And you can see, even though this is the kind of base VDB and it's kind of got no color information or anything like that on it at the moment,
Not
it's
very
already creating
detailed.
something quite interesting in the scene. Once we place this, we can then start to kind of play around with color, which I'll do now. Let's go for something more towards the kind of the orangey reds, and we can also then play around with the density of it as well. So you can have something which is a little bit more wispy and kind of vague, or then you can go for something which is quite dense and volumetric, something kind of along those lines. And it gives you, as an artist, it gives you an awful lot of control to craft these space scenes in the way that you would want to. So just drop that guy in there, and you can kind of place them how you want to, scale them up a little bit, and create something.
We had to follow the gas cloud production stuff for such a long time before getting it, but it was really it is definitely changed the way the game feels. Like, I would say this feature got more and more impressive to me over time, because when it first came in, it felt like it was impressive just because it was there and it was new. But over the years, it has consistently been something that I think helps to bring life and interest to the game. I'm really glad they took the time to do it as well as they did. And I hope they get even further with it, little denser clouds and stuff.
It's just kind of color in space, really. And you can also then get some quite wacky results from it too. And this is all using the same technology, and you can see from just 3 different examples there how you can craft pretty much 3 quite kind of independent visual space locations.
Wow, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool. I mean, it's we were developing the tech first off for Squadron, but we're going to use it extensively through the PU in a lot of different situations. In fact, in some situations, like just around a derelict or a small asteroid, that you may not even think that it's using the big volumetric cloud tech. But I'm looking forward to, because we're going to escape space sort of almost like an environment and have space weather. It's going to be cool.
All right, and that just about does it for us today. Tune in to Reverse the First live tomorrow on Twitch, where environmental art director Ian Leyland.
And folks, that just about does it for me today. I wanted to have kind of a shorter stream today, just talking about some of the game dev stuff that was going on over the last few years. Look at some of the pillar talks, see what they were saying years ago. Obviously, some very interesting. Can I link that? Ooh, I can't because I don't have that chat open. I mean, I can link it into the YouTube chat. Nope, YouTube chat's not even open either. I could drop it into my Discord for you. Video name is just Around the Verse, Pillar Talk, if you want to check it out. Will ArcCorp get clouds before the terraforming? I think it'll get clouds, yeah, pretty soon. Glad you got on, Reese. Thanks for dropping. Thanks for dropping by. Jeez. See you next time, Johnny. Thank you, everybody, for coming and watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I like doing these sort of Monday streams as something we can just chill, chat, look at the history of oh my God, I can't talk. Looking at the history of the development, looking at the future, looking at the current, whatever it might be. I just enjoy taking a chill Monday to hang out with you guys, talk about the games, and answer some questions. Don't know what we're going to do next week. Oh, no. Next week, we'll be doing the monthly report. Long and in-depth. So keep an eye out for that as well. On Wednesday, I've got a special stream coming up. I'm going to be joining all of the people who were on my my Saturday live stream. It's Morphologist, Level Cap Gaming, the Astropub, Avenger 1. We're all with me. We're going to jump in and play the game together on Wednesday, so make sure to come and check that stream out. We'll be going live an hour early. And then on Saturday, we've got an org event going on. Don't know what's going on Friday night, but we'll figure something out. We'll do something. I hope you all enjoyed, though, today. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I'm going to send you all on a raid to somewhere for my Twitch folks. I'll send you all on to Anna. Go ahead and say some hello to her. She's playing the Cooking Simulator. I hope you enjoy Cooking Simulator. Actually, maybe I'll send you on to some Star Citizen play. I'll send you over to Galather Gaming. Looks like he is away from the stream right now. So still looking at my regulars. Looks like Meyer's playing some Star Citizen. I'll send you over his way. So tell Meyer I said what's up. Give him a hello. Drop a tomato in the chat. Couple 07s. What time is that stream with everyone on Wednesday? It's going to be 1 o'clock UTC. You missed my monthly report videos. Prefer them more than the streams. Well, the videos are... Looks like we're ending just in time. The videos are still happening. The videos are nowhere to be gone. I'll be having another one out in about 7 days. And of course, the last one for June is still out on the channel. So make sure to check it out. Anyways, folks, have fun over in my stream, Twitch, and YouTube. I'm going to see what we can do about raids for you. I don't know if anybody is streaming on YouTube right now, but if they are, I'll send you that way. And if not, I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. Had a blast today. It was good talks. And I'll catch you all later.